Hello and welcome to another Dose Conspiracy, guys. This time we're tickling the gicker of the dark side of the underbelly of the secret societies, the lizard people that run the whole show. We're looking into curtain twitchers and dirty dealers, and we're talking with an expert who's been digging deep on this side of the ditch for many, many years, from a very famous and successful radio show, iHeartRadio. Bishop Larry Gaiters is joining us this evening. We're going to be talking about the WHO, the IMF. We're going to be talking about Kobe, I guess. And we're going to see what the fuck Bill Gates is doing with his little laughing face, talking about vaccinating us all. This is streaming live on YouTube for YouTube. But it's the only thing I have right now to stream with, to all the lovely people at Patreon. And they are watching live, so I'm going to be throwing up some of their comments and stuff as we go along. If you want to join in the future, patreon.com/doseconspiracy, guys, you can be part of these interviews. And this is a brand new kind of segment I'm doing on Dose Conspiracy, guys, where I get to interview the experts, the people who are doing the hard digging that I don't have time to do, as well as doing all my other bigger shows and the true crime stuff. So this is like an insight into the people that I'd only read about in the past. And Bishop Larry has been doing some serious research, some serious digging. We're going to get deep, so get your pens and pencils and your paper at the ready, taking notes, writing down names. This is like the rim of the rabbit hole to dive into, to get down into some serious shit. So Bishop Larry, welcome to the show.
It is such a great honor to be with you, Brother Gordon, for the very first time on this powerful podcast. And you are doing such a magnificent job for all truthers and those that are a part of the international woke community. And I just thank God for you, your staff, and for
it's
the
just
work
me.
that you're doing.
There's no staff. It's just me in this place. So there is certain elements of blind spots and biases and stuff like that, because I'm not being surrounded by a team of people. There's nobody I have. I check my own facts, but I try to interact with other people in the community, like your good self, and like the best in the West, Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat. Sam and Xavier over there are the ones that I guess turned you on to me, and we met up by pure universal happenstance.
Yes, I believe it's through the providence of God. Nothing is by chance. And one of my favorite sayings I like to share with all of my truther brothers and sisters is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject to know you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I believe that both the king and the pawn will go back in the same box. And what your listeners are going to hear tonight will be mind blowing. So hopefully they'll have enough brain matter that they can use on tomorrow, because what they're going to hear, they probably have never heard before, at least not on this level in dimensionality, concerning the greatest global cover-up in human history. So I'm really excited to begin to unpack that tonight.
Yeah, we're going to go deep. We're going to go hard. And if you want to listen to, I don't know if we're going to double up on the stuff that you already talked with Sam about, but there was some great stuff on two episodes of Tinfoil Hat. You're also all over the internet. You have your own podcast. You have your own iHeartRadio show. Like, tell people before we kick this off, where can people find you and what are you on?
Yes, absolutely, Brother Gordon. I am the host of the nationally and internationally syndicated radio show, Global Spiritual Revolution Radio, through the Life Radio Network, 92.9 FM, 1460 AM here in New York City, New York. You can find us on liferadionj.com. Again, liferadionj.com/Gaiters. That's GAITERS. And we're also internationally syndicated through both the iHeartRadio Network and the iHeart Media Group, also here in New York City, as well as the USA Radio Network every Friday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We average between 20 to 25 million listeners each and every week. So in about 100. So we're going into another level. Also, they can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Global Spiritual Revolution Radio. Again, Global Spiritual Revolution Radio on YouTube, and they can receive weekly updates of all of our radio broadcasts, either myself as the host or myself as the guest. And also they can follow me on social media, both on Twitter and Facebook at Bishop L. Gaiters, at Bishop L. Gaiters. That's Gaiters. So, yes, I've been in radio now for 25 years. I've been in the ministry for 37 years as a bishop through the apostolic faith. I am also, like I said a second ago, I've been a radio talk show host for about 25 years, and I've been a researcher and a historian for 40 years. Digging into this, Brother Gordon, going down the rabbit hole, and my responsibility tonight will be to stretch the minds of your listeners so that when I let go, of their minds, their minds would never return back to their original form or shape.
Prison rules.
It's going to be powerful.
This is what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds almost threatening. Like you're like, when I'm done with you, your mind is going to be saggy and flappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's oh my God, that's weird. Like a rat out of a drain pipe. So
yeah.
It's it's cool to be talking to you. I've been listening to you for the last 2 days, pretty much just you straight, trying to get all this mad shit into my head. You said you're a historian for 40 years. I'm doing my conspiracy duties for about 20, a little bit over 20. If you count watching the X-Files in my tween years and looking up aliens and learning about JFK, when I was 14 and 15, you could say 25, if you're putting scores on the doors. But 40 years is a real long time. That's man and boy. And it's weird that you would hear somebody who is in the apostolic faith or in any kind of a organized religion, then moving into a thing that's like everything you've ever known ever is completely bullshit, and this is what's really going on, and still be part of some kind of faith. We talked with Dave Hayes, who's the praying medic. He talks about QAnon, and he's I would say an expert, and it's very faith based as well. There's a lot of alignments between having a religious faith-based personality and moving in these kind of circles. How did you get into conspiracy theories, and what are you a bishop of? What are those correlations there?
That is a great question, and I don't get to really answer that question too often because not too many people ask me that. I believe that God has uniquely designed me and assigned me into this area because, number one, it's a lonely walk. A lot of my colleagues in the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ are so afraid of me. They think I've lost my mind. They think, why are you going into this area? Just stick to the gospel. But, over 40 years ago, the mind of God had asked me this question. And he said, are you preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, or are you teaching the gospel that I preach? I said, Lord, can you ask me that again? He says, are you preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, or are you teaching the gospel that I taught? And so I began to dig and I began to see the world through the eyes of what I call Christology, because a lot of people in the church don't understand that. They think that the term Christ was the actual last name of Jesus, and it wasn't. The term Christ has a threefold interpretation. It represents the Messiah. It represents he is the anointed one, but it also represents he who makes clear the plan of salvation. That term Christos or Mashiach in both the Ashkenazi in the Hasidic Hebrew text and in a transliteration into the Greek Hellenistical text lexicon. So Christ means a new way of thinking. So then Jesus, the Lord had spoken to me over 40 years ago and said, I'm calling you into a domain that very few men want to walk in. You're going to reveal the very true gospel that I taught, because out of the 66 books we have now in the King James Version, 45 were taken out. So in actuality, Brother Gordon, there should be 111 books. My question is, why was the other 45 books taken out by the Vatican Church? Okay.
Well, Emperor Constantine did that shit. We talked about, we did an episode on Jesus Christ and another one on Christmas, you know, and trying to tell that story and trying to see that like Jesus was a supplanted character through a bunch of different religions like Zoroastrian and ancient Iran. Even like Moses was the Jesus of the time. His representation was the ram, and then the next astrological sign is the fish, so that came as Jesus. Like, it's the same thing that's being taught again and again. And the gospel that you're talking about was maybe written after the real Jesus, but it had a message that was able to give people their own autonomy, and the church saw it as an opportunity for control. So the other gospels that were removed were the ones that maybe had the secrets in it that were like, hey, those first 40 books like are fiction. Like they're just like guidelines. They're not like, you know, strict rules.
45 that were taken out. We're talking about the book of the Maccabees, which is the childhood of Jesus Christ, you know, which also reveals the last name of Jesus that he used when he paid his taxes. All right. And when you go into any church, there is a communion table, right, with the cross. And in the middle, it has three letters, capital I, capital H, capital S. That is a Latin lexicon acronym signifying Pandira, capital P-A-N space, capital D-I-R-A. So Pandira, according to the Maccabees, was the maiden name of Mary, the mother of Jesus. That was the last name that Jesus used when he paid his taxes. Christ was his mission, was his assignment. The actual last name that he used just to pay his taxes, you know, render therefore unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's, was Pandira. So he took on his mother's maiden name. All right. So this truth is shaking the foundation of the church. And so we have to look at the Lord Jesus Christ through the lens of authenticity and truth. And so a part of why I am in this type of ministry, I don't have a lot of friends. I got one good friend, a good brother, friend of mine in Los Angeles. But other than him, I got a lot of associates, because this is a lonely walk. And so what I am, Brother Gordon, I am a divine contract assassin. My job as a contract killer is to decapitate the government of darkness, which is this global Luciferian deep state, to the point when I'm willing to die for it. Because what we are going to get into now, we are witnessing the greatest global cover-up in human history. And it starts with the life of Kobe Bean Bryant. Who killed Kobe Bryant? Who has the power to cover it up? And who is benefiting from the death of Kobe Bryant? As we are going to unpack this powerful impartation tonight, entitled The Greatest Global Cover-Up in Human History. So then Kobe Bryant in 2003 was in the midst of a rape case in Eagle, Colorado. Now, he was assigned an attorney, a woman by the name of Pamela Mackey, capital M-A-C-K-E-Y. Now, Pamela Mackey is a part of a secret society here in the United States called Phi Beta Kappa. So Phi Beta Kappa is the legal and the educational faction of the deep state, where Kappa Beta Phi, Brother G, is the Wall Street faction of the deep state. So Kobe Bryant, who flew from Los Angeles to Eagle, Colorado, in July of 2003, was scheduled to have his knee worked on by a physician by the name of Dr. Richard Stedman, who is also Phi Beta Kappa. So Dr. Richard Stedman, who was Kobe Bryant's knee doctor, and Pamela Mackey are best friends, but Kobe Bryant did not know that. So then Dr. Richard Stedman had instructed Kobe Bryant not to stay near the hotel near the doctor's office of Dr. Stedman. But Dr. Richard Stedman had instructed Kobe Bryant to go miles away to the Cordelia Spa there in Eagle, Colorado, many miles away from his actual hotel that he initially wanted to stay in near the doctor's office, which was strange to him. So Dr. Richard Stedman had directed Kobe to go to the Cordelia Spa in hotel there in Edwards, Colorado. And he meets a young lady by the name of Caitlin Faber, whose parents are Phi Beta Kappa. Now, wait a minute now. So the parents of this woman, whom she claimed she was raped by Kobe Bryant, is Phi Beta Kappa. Pamela Mackey, who represented Kobe as his attorney, is Phi Beta Kappa. And Dr. Richard Stedman is Phi Beta Kappa. So then Phi Beta Kappa, also Dr. Susan Rice, who is the former ambassador to the United Nations during the Barack Obama administration, is Phi Beta Kappa. And so then Pamela Mackey was assigned to Kobe Bryant, not by the late Dr. Jerry Buss. It's going to get deep now, the former owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. She was assigned to Kobe by his knee doctor, Dr. Richard Stedman. Why? And so then at this time, Kobe is not a part of any secret society. He's not a part of the Boule secret society that we're going to get into the next 2 to 3 minutes. He was not a part of the Theosophical Secret Society, of the Thelema Secret Society through Aleister Crowley. So Kobe Bryant is accused of rape from this girl who is a host at this hotel. And she was asking Kobe, can I show you around? Well, that wasn't her responsibility, Brother G. So then Kobe invited her to his room. One thing leads to another. Then she doesn't go home that night. She goes to her boyfriend's house wearing the same clothes that she said she was raped in and had sex with her boyfriend. Okay. Then the next day she goes home and cries rape when she told her parents it was Kobe Bryant. So a year later in 2004, the same powers that got Kobe off was the same powers that closed his eyes. And that is a term here in the United States that the mob uses when someone wants to close your eyes. That is concerning death. So I'm going to understand what we're going through now, Brother Gordon, because the term COVID is a Hebrew word that is a transliteration into English as Kobe. So in 2004, Kobe is introduced into a black skulls and bones called the Boule Secret Society. So the Boule Secret Society was born in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the hometown of Kobe Bryant, on the 15th of May in 1904, where 9 African-American scholars, beginning with Dr. Henry McKee Menton and 8 other black men, had created what is now called the Boule Secret Society. Now, the term Boule goes back during the time of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, where the term Boule, which represents Sigma Pi Phi, which represents the foundation of the lower house of the Greek Parliament today.
Okay.
They are the advisors, and they are not just the advisors to the king, but they protect the global Luciferian system. Go ahead, brother.
So, I'm already getting a bit of like what would you call it, mental cystitis. My brain is already a bit stingy, right? So we're talking about Kobe Bryant at his probably like the start of his career peak. So he's on the Lakers. He's playing with Shaq. This is like the golden years of their wins. He's like 3 rings in. He's a couple of championships under the belt. He's happy out. He's top of his game, and he is hobbled by some early Me Too type of accusation.
Right.
So
see, during this, and think about that, and not to cut you off, but
yeah,
Kobe Bryant's agent at that time was a man by the name of Arn Tellem, who is still a member of the Tavistock Institute.
Yeah.
In the Tavistock clinic, in the Tavistock group. Okay. So Arn Tellem is a part of one of the most powerful secret societies on earth. Kobe Bryant doesn't know that he's going to be sucked into this demonic vortex that will eventually take him out years later on the morning of January 26, 2020. Go right ahead, Brother G. You can't really say something.
So I'm just trying to like set, because this is kind of like one of those head above the parapet. This is like the worms out of the soil after the rain kind of moment, where you see, like, quite evidently you see, like, there's actual physical evidence, like there's dates and times and people, and they can all be linked together, like with this pi beta gamma. What was the kappa? What was the
Phi Beta Kappa.
Beta Kappa. Okay, so like Phi Beta Kappa, I'm guessing is part of that Greek like collegiate society, like the fraternities or sororities that
absolutely
are in the college system, right? So obviously Kobe is coming up through. Did he come up through college basketball?
No, Kobe did not go to college. He went straight from high school.
So
he went right.
Normally, would those dudes would like the very high level, basketball superstars? Usually they are kind of courted through college ball and what is it, NCAA, and I'm not a sports guy, so I don't know any of this stuff. But like they're courted through all of that stuff. They'd go through a college system. They'd probably be pledged. They'd probably be put into a fraternity, so they get their first access to this type of thing. Kobe hadn't got that access, but they still needed to get him in to control him in some way. Do you think? And this is kind of an offshoot. Do you think that like a lot of these Greek fraternities, there's an awful lot of accusations of rape and sexual misconduct of young lads in their late teens and early 20s that doesn't really hit courts and doesn't really get, jail time. There's no real publicity about it. But there's an awful lot of these young lads getting busted for sex crimes during college years, and it's all kind of hushed away. And then like 10, 15 years later, they're the CEOs or they're the vice presidents of companies. Right. Is that kind of system, that Greek system, is that just being used to get people into certain precarious, like moral and social situations to be able to hold stuff over them as it goes along? And is that what happened to Kobe? Did they just get him late and try and orchestrate this kind of fake rape thing? I'm not saying that the girl is not saying, like, you know what I mean? You're fucking, you're basically saying like, yeah, she's full of shit. Like if you say that it's not real, but to construct something like that around somebody so famous and have them still then be famous and totally get away with it, quote unquote, go on to have a glittering career, to still be regarded as like one of the top at least 5 basketball players of all time, Michael Jordan and Shaq and whoever else. Like, it seems like a bananas type of situation. Like, you can't, how the fuck does that happen? How the fuck does he go to a clinic and then get like sexed up by a girl who then goes and makes an accusation against him? Was that planned from the outset? Was it a honey pot to get him like under control? How did all that play? And how does it have associations with the Greek system? And does that happen to loads of other people, but just Kobe's situation was the head above the parapet?
Before I get into the Greek system, you are absolutely right. These players, not just within the NBA, the National Basketball Association, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, but throughout life, when you are in that financial dimensionality, you are controlled. And before we get into the Black Secret Society, there was a book by Dr. Andrew Hacker. And it's called Two Nations, Black and White, Separate, Hostile, Unequal. He says, concerning the Black Boule Secret Society member, we have a Black middle class, but it only exists at the sufferance of white America. We decide how many of you would be allowed into which positions, and how many of you is too many. And we pick Cosby, we pick Powell, that's Colin. We do that, and we are very careful about the numbers, end quote. So that term sufferance, it means, and when I'm about to say, I'm not talking about black and white. I'm a black conservative. I don't teach victimhood or victimology. But to answer your question, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, all of these African-American Hollywood stars within the Hollywood sports and entertainment complex, they're controlled even in their youth. They knew that Kobe Bryant was going to be a superstar. Now, 13 years of Kobe's life is spent in a town in Italy called Siena, Italy, which is the epicenter of COVID-19 in Italy. And so there is a pharmaceutical company out of Basel, Switzerland, but they have a department of vaccinations in the same town that Kobe grew up in, which is Siena, Italy. So then Kobe Bryant has to be controlled. So he's controlled here through this setup. Now, Bill Cosby, they knew he was a rapist. Bill Cosby, 10 years ago, wanted to buy NBC, the National Broadcasting Corporation. When the system said no, then he began to expose the system. Then they took out his son. So they control you in order so that you can succumb to the system. So this Boule Secret Society was created by 9 black scholars, not with black money. John D. Rockefeller in 1904, through the Future Rockefeller Foundation, which did not come into fruition until in 1913. But in 1904, John D. Rockefeller created this Boule Secret Society, which means they are the protectors of the Knights of the Round Table. So these 9 black secret societies, which represent 9 black fraternity and sorority secret societies, according to the book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi by Dr. Charles H. Wesley, published in 1954. He says on page 146 that there are 9 knights of the Round Table: the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, the Warburgs, the Rockefellers, the John Jacob Astor dynasty, the Bilderbergers, the Habsburgs, the Sassoon family, who had controlled the global opium trade, not just throughout the world, but more specifically in China, the 2 opium wars from 1839 to 1860. Now, remember Vidal Sassoon, who passed away, 15, 20 years ago. He is a direct bloodline descendant of the Sassoon family. And they still control the opium and the poppy trade today out of Afghanistan, and throughout the Middle East. And the 9 Illuminati family is called the Li family, capital L-I, out of Hong Kong, who are bankrolling this global conspiracy called COVID-19. And so when we begin to unpack what's going on during this greatest house arrest in human history, where over half of the population in the world, my brother, is in lockdown. Why? Because the global Luciferian deep state, by first taking out Kobe Bryant. Now, again, before I begin to dissect Kobe, these 9 black Greek letter secret societies, Alpha Phi Alpha, they protect the Rothschilds. Kappa Alpha Psi, they protect the Oppenheimers. Omega Psi Phi, they protect the Warburgs, who created the American Federal Reserve System in December of 1913. Phi Beta Sigma, they protect the Rockefeller dynasty. Lambda Phi Theta, which is another black Greek letter secret society, they protect the John Jacob Astor family to this day. Alpha Kappa Alpha, they protect the Bilderbergs. Delta Sigma Theta, they protect the Habsburgs. Zeta Phi Beta, they protect the Sassoon dynasty and the global drug trade. This is blowing your mind. In Sigma Gamma Rho, they protect the Lee dynasty. Wait a minute now. So you have 9 Black Greek letter secret societies called the Divine Nine.
Are they predominantly black membered, like Greek?
Well, you know what? Initially they were black, but now, matter of fact, the founders of the NAACP were not black. Let me say it again. The founders of the NAACP and many of your black organizations like CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, and SIC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Urban League were all founded by the Khazarian Mafia called the Rothschilds. Now, the NAACP was not founded by black folk. It was not founded by Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who is one of these, what we call house Negroes here in the United States. These Boule secret society men are not here, Brother G, to protect the interests of Black America or you and I. They are here to protect the interests of the system that I call not just the Knights of the Round Table with these 9 families from the Rothschilds to the Lee dynasty, but they're also designed to protect the global black diaspora of the crab barrel system. Now, what is the crab barrel? The crab barrel is a global system that the Luciferian deep state keep not just black folk in, but all people, regardless of your race, creed, color, or ethnicity. And they only choose the crab barrel owners. I want you to listen to me. This is heavy. The crab barrel owners, the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, Rockefellers, Bilderbergs, the Sassoons, they only choose certain people like a Barack Obama, like a Denzel Washington, like a LeBron James, who has that Boule Secret Society tattooed on his chest. Look it up. All of these black men and women, Oprah Winfrey, she is a witch. She is involved with Harvey Weinstein. Oprah Winfrey's
and John of God
house was raided by the FBI a couple of weeks ago. So we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one.
Her friend Gail Steele King, during her interview last month, Lisa Leslie, a former WNBA player, one of Kobe Bryant's friends, instead of Gail King protecting the legacy of Kobe Bryant during this interview, she begins to trash Kobe Bryant. Why? Because Gail Steele King is a boule. She doesn't talk about her buddy Harvey Weinstein. She doesn't talk about Charlie Rose, her former co-worker who is under indictment from 27 women because of rape, She doesn't even talk about the former CEO of CBS, Les Moonves, but she goes against her own people. And I'm not teaching black and white. I'm just teaching you the etymology, the origin of the psyop of people who have sold out their own people. Now, and I'm going to say this later on concerning the KKK. The Ku Klux Klan was not founded by white people. I got y'all's attention now. The Ku Klux Klan was founded by an attorney, a Rothschild agent by the name of Judah, Benjamin Philip Judah. Some call him Judah P. Benjamin, but Benjamin Philip Judah, who was a Rothschild agent. And the attorney, not just an attorney who never went to law school in England where he came from, but he was the Secretary of War of the Confederacy. He was the Secretary of State in War for the Confederacy. That is Judah Philip Benjamin, or Benjamin Philip Judah, who was not white. He was of the Khazarian Mafia, who has their blood origins in present-day Turkey. Now, I'm not making this a black and white thing as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in history here. And so you got 9 black Greek letter secret societies, and they are the protectors of the global Luciferian roundtable in this crab barrel. So go right ahead, bro.
I want to kind of like tighten up a few little bits because there's so much information. It's so densely packed,
Yes.
I can hear a lot of the references. I know a lot of the names. Like when you say J.J. Astor and like that, I'm like, yeah, I know that. I know the history. I know the history of the Rothschilds. Maybe it's not said out for the audience, or maybe there's people at home listening that don't No, but like it seems that there's certain things for me that don't kind of flatten out easy. Say like there's 9 Greek letter college fraternities that are tasked with protecting the interests of certain families, dynasties, including like businesses and land holdings and all this kind of stuff. Like how particularly does that work? So these are like traditionally black membered college societies. So there's obviously like middle class black people in the 19th century and early 20th century that are going to college that are not considered, 2/3 of a person. They're not considered to be, after the Emancipation Proclamation, they're not considered to be, indentured servants. They're not, how is there a class divide among black and white, and why are we being told now? Like I see people like Candace Owens and stuff like that coming out and saying like, why you all standing at the back of this room when it's her and Dave Rubin and Turning Point USA and there's like, black teenagers at the back with tape over their mouths, and she's like, slavery had nothing to do with you. Why are you protesting about this? Like, why are you putting yourself in the victim mentality when it's nothing to do with you? Get out and make actions now. There was people doing that for 100 years, black people doing that for 100 years. They weren't under that yoke of oppression. Obviously, if they're part of like a college system, if they're part of a black fraternity, if they're part of a secret society that's protecting the interests of these uber powerful, deity families like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and the rest of the Astors and all of these, it just seems unbelievable that that amount of people who were powerful and black evolved in that, creating a system of subjugation of their own people for decades to come. And still today we have that story of, black people were always put down. It was the 60s until anybody did anything about it. Can you go into a little bit more detail about like how those secret societies work, how those fraternities work, or how fraternities work in general? Are they looking, say like the Rothschilds are into like banking in Europe, and they have all their sons go off and they make loads of different banks in all these different countries and all this kind of stuff. So when they're in America, I think 2 of the sons came to America, one went to the north and one went to the south, and they started making all of these, different companies and different holdings and buying up land and buying up all the utilities, and the whole monopoly board is fucking taken over by these dudes. And, the JP Morgans and stuff like that are only nickel and dime compared to these dudes. They go into all these colleges and they infiltrate all of this, these fraternities and the high society. Would they be going to like people that are in finance courses, or people who have like promise? They're from a decent family. They're into like financing, and they're learning that in college, and they say, okay, we're going to pick him and we're going to groom him all the way up, and he's going to come into our company through this fraternity. We'll socialize him with a whole load of other people. We'll get him to get really good grades, and we'll train him up in the dark arts of, secret sexy finance that we'll fucking, crash the market in 2008. And we know the exact date and time as well, because we have a plan, because the whole fucking thing boom bust is planned. Come on in now, and they'll take, a that's child right. That's anointed. Is that how it's working? Like, or can you explain how it goes?
Absolutely. This thing is so strategic. You have to understand when we talk about the institution of slavery, and I have a series that I taught on some months ago on Crowdsource the Truth entitled the global conspiracy of eugenics in politics. And so when we talk about the institution of slavery, which did not start through the Republican Party here in the United States, it started through the same party that black people support today, which is the Democratic Party. Now, the 9 families, Rothschilds, Oppenheimers, Warburgs, stop right there. So the Rothschilds, Oppenheimers, and the Warburgs, who represent finance, these following black secret society attorneys come from Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, and Omega Psi Phi. So those black Greek legal societies who produce black lawyers, Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, and Omega Psi Phi, And a lot of them don't even know, Brother G, that they are designated a certain family to take care of through working for a certain law firm.
Right.
Or a corporation or a foundation or an initiative.
So it's also granular as it goes down. They don't even know who's in the upper stream. Right.
Yeah, they have no idea, my friend, that if 90% of the lawyers in this country who are black, I'm talking about black lawyers, 90% of black lawyers come from Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa, Alpha Psi, and Omega Psi Phi. Most of them, not all, but most, they work for institutions, foundations, initiatives, banks, corporations that represent the interest of the Oppenheimers and gold and silver out of South Africa in the interest of the Warburg family, the Federal Reserve System. And then the next three families, Rockefellers, Astors, and Bilderbergers, they represent the educational foundations of this country, whereas many of our black educators, and foundational leaders of foundations and corporations and initiatives are working for the interests of the Rockefellers, the Astors, and the Bilderbergers. And many of these black people don't even know it. This is how deep it goes. And then the last three families of the Habsburgs, the Sassoon family, and the Lee dynasty, they control big pharma, some of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in this world. And so thereby you have those last three black secret societies of Delta, Sigma, Theta, Zeta, Phi, Beta, and Sigma, Gamma, Rho. Many of these are black doctors and dentists, right? Many of these are black medical administrators and teachers and professors who work not for the benefit of black America, or any people of color. They work for the benefit of the systems of the Bilderbergs, the Habsburgs, right? The Sassoon family in the Lee dynasty. So this is so strategic. And so slavery has not been abolished. Slavery has been what I call redesigned. Yeah. Let me say it again. Slavery has not been abolished. Slavery has been redesigned. So
the 13th Amendment and stuff like that for incarceration.
Absolutely. So 95% of our historically black colleges and universities were not started with black money. Most of them were started, and again, I'm not anti-Semitic, but they were started with Jewish money. The civil rights movement between 1955 and 1968 was infiltrated with Jewish money, Getting back to the NAACP, its founder, was a group of brothers called the Spingarn Brothers,
They sound Jewish.
A powerful Jewish family, initially out of Romania, Romanian Jews who moved to New York City in the early 1900s. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just kind of revealing what's going on.
Facts are facts, Bishop Larry,
That's it. And so Henry Moskowitz was the original founder of the NAACP. An attorney, a Romanian Jew from Romania, who immigrated here in the United States in the early 1900s, along with the Spingarn brothers, created the NAACP. Why? To control the black masses.
So they went in and invested in these education systems and these, social organizations for, black unity and development in order to create, not a rich class of black people, but an upper middle class that was wealthy enough to be disdainful of poor people. So you're not rich, but you have enough money to hate poor people, so you don't want to be poor no more. So you will do as you're told to keep the life that you've become accustomed to. So they'll create a ruling upper middle class of black society to control everybody below that through.
You hit this right on the head, Brother G. These are what I call black chosen crabs. They're chosen from the elite to represent the elite. Okay.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant never went into the black community. Okay. Kobe Bryant spent millions of dollars, okay, into a Chinese education. And again, I'm not against the 1.4 billion Chinese citizens. That I'm not castigating them, but I'm just kind of revealing to you and to your audience the psyop of mental slavery, how deep this goes when we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history concerning not just the Boule Secret Society, okay, but the male members of the Boules are called archons, all right, capital Archons, which is a Latin word meaning demon. The women are called archeus or demoness, okay? And so this is a reason why.
That's a name they chose particularly and specifically, right?
And right, and particularly and specifically, again, it is the interests of the global Luciferian elite to keep the masses of black people in check by choosing certain ones out of the crab barrel to represent not the crabs in the barrel, but to represent the masters of the barrel. I'm talking about the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Oppenheimers, okay? So then when we're talking about this deep state, global Luciferian deep state, okay?
Yeah.
So then you have to understand that most of the black colleges, okay, most of the black colleges were not created by black people, okay? Most of the black colleges were created with Jewish money, okay? And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem, with people, non-black people supporting, the interests of African-American institutions and corporations. But
sure.
The problem I have is the total manipulation.
Yeah.
Now, here's a man by the name of Julius Rosenwald, who is one of the founders of the Sears Roebuck Company. Julius Rosenwald created the Rosenwald Fund to create black colleges and universities in this country. Julius Rosenwald gave a $50,000 check, okay, to the Tuskegee Institute, which is a black university in the state of Alabama, in Tuskegee, Alabama, to create the syphilis conspiracy.
I was going to say, yeah.
That came from Rosenwald money. The same Julius Rosenwald, who not only gave $50,000, okay, to Booker T. Washington, okay, to create this syphilis conspiracy to infect 600 black men and women to see how the anatomy of the black body would respond. And not to this day, not one black family has received any massive amount of money. Now, I don't believe in reparations. I'm a black conservative. I'm just sharing with you the strategic, sophisticated psyop of darkness when it comes to the mental enslavement of a people who don't know who they are. And as a side note, quickly, before we get further into COVID-19 and Kobe Bryant, Black America is the only group of people on this planet who don't know who we are. We know what we are, but we don't know who we are. And as a side note,
that's by design, yeah.
That's it. And that's by design. Do you know, my brother, that half of the global gross domestic product of Nike comes from black people? Half of their global sales come from a people whose self-esteem is not in themselves, as they are created in the image and likeness of God. Their self-esteem is in buying a pair of $300 to $400 pair of Air Jordans. Why? Because of this self-hate. And then Nike has designed, okay, through their think tanks to target, okay, and to manipulate the self-hate and the low self-esteem of a people who don't know who they are. This is a part of the scheme through the Boule Secret Society. Michael Jordan doesn't care about black people. The late Kobe Bryant did not care about black people, okay? Listen, so then we have to understand, getting back to Kobe Bryant in this divine Greek letter. Go right ahead.
Before we go on to the Kobe stuff, like I still can't parse the fact that there is, in the times of slavery and just afterwards, we're talking like late 19th century, that there was like a two-tier system in the black community where there were, you know, upper middle class black people that were, I guess, lording it over other folks. Like it creates that like a two-tier system. There's a double-edged sword of evil bitterness on both sides, where the more wealthy black people are looking down on the poor blacks, country folk, and pitying them and just like having disdain for them. But also there's a really fucking weird and insidious, like, dark self-hatred in people who aren't, like you said yourself, that they're looking for self-esteem through, you know, physical adornments and what have you, like jewelry and all this kind of stuff, that they almost hate somebody who has become successful, because they're like, what did you do? Like, whose dick did you suck to get to where you are? Like, who did you snitch out to get all of that stuff? That there's like a hatred for somebody who sells out. And it's in that whole mentality of the Uncle Tom or the house Negro, where you're like, you've taken the soup. You've allowed yourself to become controlled in order to get a comfortable life, so that they'll like almost reject success or reject like self-empowerment and self-advancement, because they're like, nah, man, I'm keeping it real. Like, it's keeping it real, being poor and uneducated and not. Do you know what I mean? It's a really weird, insidious thing, and it's still there for like 100 years. I didn't know that there was such well-heeled black people in the 19th century. I thought that there was, and we are taught, I guess, as a society, that there was like a really shit time, and then like Dr. King came along, and then it was all like, oh, it's a bit better, and then the 80s came, and you're like, oh, no, it's a bit better now. But any time before that, you're told, no, being black is like the shittest thing you could ever be, because you'd be totally, you know, second-class citizen or whatever. It's not the case. So how can that be parsed through history? How come people don't know that? Why is that not being told to people?
See, the word of God says that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Let's start with the term Africa. Okay. Yeah. Now, the term Africa is not the name of the original continent that we call Africa today. It was named after a Roman general by the name of Scipio Africanus. All right. Who was one of the great generals in Roman military history, who had defeated Hannibal in Carthage, which is present day Libya. Okay. And so he was born in 236 BC, died in 183 BC. But a few years right before his death, okay, he had defeated Hannibal, a man of color, in Carthage, which is present day Libya. And when you study the etymology of Roman military history, any nation that they conquer, they change the name of that nation from the name of that original nation to the name of the conqueror or the Roman general who conquered that nation. So the original name of Africa was not Africa. It was the term Akebulon, okay, capital Akebulon. Some spell it as capital Akebulon, okay, which is a Hamitic Coptic term, which means the garden, like Eden. So the term Eden is a Coptic interpretation of the term Hermetic, or Akebulon, which means Garden of Eden or Eden within the Egyptian Coptic language. So when Scipio Africanus defeated Hannibal, okay, he changed the name of the continent from Akebulon, which means Eden, according to the Egyptian Coptic interpretation, from Eden to Africanus, which is Africa today. So when I tell black people, stop calling yourself African, because you're naming yourself after a Roman general who had defeated, okay, and a black general, okay, and I'm making this a black and white situation, but just revealing the psyop. So this is the psyop. When we start with the term Africa, that's not the name of the original continent. That's
from
the name
from the roots. Like it's not even correctly named.
The origin, what I call the origination of the roots of the continent, are rooted in the name of a family, the Africanus family. That, according to the Oxford Dictionary of Roman History, Volume 2, or Section 3. That the Africanus family practiced spirit cooking. And the Africanus family not only practiced spirit cooking, but they were practitioners of the child pedophilia system within the Roman Empire. This is how deep this goes. And now black people have named themselves.
Same motherfuckers doing it for 4,000 years, right? Okay.
Same thing.
So everybody that I know that's in America, anyone that's listening to this, if you're black, you can say now I'm not black. Yes. You call me a Cubilian American. What would you call it?
Yes, a Cubilian or Eden American.
Eden American. So, there you go.
See, we have to deprogram people one layer at a time.
Yeah, man.
They're inside of this global matrix. You can't rip the thing off of the mindset too quickly. You have to do it through what I call discombobulation. You have to unlayer it because they've been sold a part of this system. My brother, they will kill you like they killed Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. Remember Alex Haley? Alex Haley was a Boule. Alex Haley never wrote the Root series. He had plagiarized it. So then, getting back to the term Africa, to the root, as you said, brother. So then we have to stop calling ourselves Africans because that's not the name of the original continent, okay? So the reason why that most black people within what I call the black diaspora all over the world, they have to cut themselves off psychologically, mentally, spiritually from this psyop called Africa, okay? Because that's not the name of the original continent, number one. Number two, when you look at the dress, the clothing style of not just young black people, but young people, period, at least here in the United States.
Yeah, well, black culture is pervasive in the United States. It's filtered down into everything now, right?
Absolutely. As we're talking about the greatest, global cover-up in human history. So, and I brought this up on Sam's show a couple of months ago when we talked about the history and the origins of Black Wall Street. When you look at the word sagging, like for baggy jeans sagging, capital SAWGIN, when you spell it backwards, then you get the term capital WNIGGAS. So it's a psyop, or the term sagging with the G at the end, spell that backwards. Then you get the word G, then capital NIGGAS. So it's a psyop. So what they wear represents the origin of the etymology of their mental deaf state. And this is the reason why slavery has not really been abolished. It's been redesigned. So the system is using the house Negro of the Boule. And there was a famous African Jamaican who moved here in New York City during the early 1920s. His name was Dr. Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Okay. And to a lot of your listeners, they may or may not heard of Marcus Garvey. Yeah. He was a black conservative here in Harlem, New York. He was teaching black people to be self-sufficient, self-sustained.
And he was vilified.
There you go. The only person that you need to depend on is God himself, whose name is the Lord Jesus Christ, and not the system.
Marcus Garvey.
What does J. Edgar Hoover do? Okay, J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director of the FBI over 40-some years. So then in the early 1920s, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history, J. Edgar Hoover, okay, had directed the agency, the Bureau of Investigations, okay, which is the precursor of the FBI. Okay. Yeah. So then,
OSS, Special Services.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. They had hired the Boule Secret Society to neutralize Marcus Garvey. Why? Because Marcus Garvey was a threat to the system.
Yeah.
So the system wants people of, not just people of color, any people, period, to be in a psyop of enslavement. Okay. This sagging, this NIGGAS spelled backwards. Okay. Even the term buck breaking, okay, BUCK, that goes back during the time of slavery in the 1600s. There was a slave owner by the name of Willie Lynch, from whom the city in the state Lynchburg, Virginia, is named after. He had taught the slave owners in the state of Virginia how to strip slaves, and the slaves who could not be controlled were sent to the Caribbean islands of Jamaica, Cuba, and St. Martinique, in St. Neves. So they would strip the slave, male or female, and put them on the ground chest first, and the slave master would rape them and molest them. So people like LeBron James, he's been broken psychologically. Kobe Bryant did not want to be broken, so they took him out. So people like Barack Obama, Eric Holder, okay, Oprah Winfrey, these people have been psychologically broken. So Kobe Bryant, getting back to him,
some not even psychologically. Some of them have been actually book broken. Like there's the whole Barry Soetoro conspiracy around Barack Obama and Michael as well.
And Michael, now that Michael Obama or Michelle is going to be the running mate for Joe Sleepy, Creepy, Sniffin' Biden, okay?
Yeah.
And so it's another topic for another day. So then, now from Kobe Bryant, the Boule Secret Society, and I'm teaching Black people tonight, stop calling yourself African American, African Canadian, African Irish. That is the name of the Roman general, the Scipio Africanus family, who were practitioners of spirit cooking and who were one of the most powerful families throughout the Roman Empire, right? Up until the year 202 BC, when Hannibal was defeated. The Africanus family not only practiced spirit cooking, my brother, but they also were involved in the child trafficking pedophilia system within the Roman Empire, but yet Black people all over the world are naming themselves after the name of the family who did spirit cooking and raping children, the African family.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions then, right? I want to see if the time, it seems to me in the timeline when people of color started referring to themselves as African Americans was in the late 70s and early 80s. They tried to reclassify, they tried to get rid of or take the power out of the N-word. They tried to instill it back into their media and into their music. And they tried to reclassify themselves as maybe legitimate citizens of America by calling themselves African Americans.
Right.
This was also at the same time that the Reagan administration and then on into George H.W. Bush administration and the war on drugs, even like leading out of like the late Nixon years, where the war on drugs basically utilized the loophole in the 13th Amendment to reactivate like physical slavery, pack the prisons, create the prison industrial complex, while also mentally subjugating that whole class of people by calling themselves African American, therefore drawing up, previous images of strong African men being brought across the Atlantic in boats in chains, where they had them out on chain gangs, and it was almost like a psyop, like where they were trying to recreate these scenes to be like, don't forget where you come from, don't wade in the water, like get that, you know what I mean, this kind of stuff. And they were recreating these. And at the same time on TV, you had all of this stuff like Roots was on. They made that whole TV show, and it's all like, don't. His name was Toby. Like, don't making all these, like selling it to Black people as if this is your heritage. You have to learn this, but it only goes back to like 1650 or something like that, and then it's like, who were you before that? Nothing. So the utilization of the term African American came in as a a gift, like here PC culture is giving you a gift to be able to reclassify yourselves in society, but also here's fucking here's Roots and here's Black music and here's like a weird fashion sense that seems like it's a grassroots movement, but really it's like a financial money pit that you're going to have to pour all of your expendable income into creating an image for yourself wearing very expensive clothes instead of investing in your education or investing in, you're going to have to start dealing drugs to be able to afford all this stuff, and then you break up the family unit, and there's fathers being removed from their kids because of this whole culture that grew up around it. So the people now that consume that culture is everybody is into what black culture created. So it seems to have leaked out of black society into society at large, where it's a subjugation,
Yes.
mentally.
Going back to the Great Society, the New Deal from Lyndon Baines Johnson from the 1964 and 1965. So through the New Deal of the Great Society, or LBJ's New Deal, and as a side note, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a part of the Ku Klux Klan all the way up until 1963. Very few people know that. So I don't know why black people worship him as a civil rights leader, but the Great Society...
He just signed a paper. JFK wrote it.
That's all he did. So the Lyndon Baines Johnson did not care about black Americans. So the Great Society was a tool of manipulation, which Lyndon Baines Johnson said after he signed the 1964 and 1965 Medicaid Act, through the Great Society, and also because of the New Deal, the American ghetto industrial complex. So let me say it again. Through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development during the 60s, which was really enacted between 64 and 65 through LBJ's Great Society, the American ghetto industrial complex. Now, in 64, the biggest American ghetto in American history, all the way up until the mid-2000s, was the Robert Taylor homes in Chicago. Do you know Robert Taylor was the grandfather of Valerie Jarrett? Valerie Jarrett was a part of the Barack Obama administration. Yeah. The father of Valerie Jarrett is Dr. James E. Bowman, who was a black eugenicist at the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine, where he practiced, was a proponent of black eugenics.
In the Negro Project, that was called, that got turned into Planned Parenthood.
That's it.
I didn't know that. That's fucking crazy, man. So it's like the Negro Project and like sterilizing black single mothers. The guy who is the head of all of that, they named the biggest project in Chicago after him. That's so rude. Like, that's fucked up. All this is
the part of LBJ Great Society New Deal between 64 and 65 that did not uplift Black America, but Black America, it put them into a psyop of victimhood.
That's crazy.
This is the Democratic Party plantation,
Yeah.
Through the Democrats, that they were the ones that instituted slavery. They were the ones through Benjamin Philip Judah, that created the Ku Klux Klan. Yes, it was Zionists who created the Ku Klux Klan, but they just put as the face of the Klan Albert Pike and Nathan Bedford Forrest. But Albert Pike and Nathan Bedford Forrest did not create the Klan. It was a Jew by the name of Judah Philip Benjamin, or Benjamin Philip Judah. So getting back to LBJ's Great Society, that created the most powerful American ghetto industrial complex on this earth. The Robert Taylor homes is named after the grandfather of Valerie Jarrett.
Come here, can I ask you, Bishop Larry, do you think, just learning that small piece of information now very quickly about Valerie Jarrett, do you think that it seems to me now that it was absolutely no accident that Roseanne Barr made that tweet about Valerie Jarrett to get Valerie Jarrett on the radar for the whole world, because she knew, like, if I put out this honeypot of political correctness and say something racially about her, like the Planet of the Apes tweet that she put out, like she almost put her hand out and got it chopped off, and she's like, it's worth it because everyone knows who Valerie Jarrett is now.
Yes.
Do you think she did that on purpose?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just come to me now that that's exactly what she did.
That was strategic.
Fucking hell, man. And then she got to go on Joe Rogan and talk about it for 3 hours. Like, that's...
See, Valerie Jarrett is a proponent of eugenics.
Yeah, big time.
A couple of weeks ago, Valerie Jarrett was taken up for Dr. Little Tony Midget Fauci, saying that he is a hero to Black... Tony Fauci, Tony Fauci owns some of the patents for COVID-19, along with through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, through the Bryant Institute. And I'm going to get into COVID-19 here in the next 15, 20 minutes because the first 10 strands of the COVID-19 virus is owned in patent through the Novartis AG group out of Basel, Switzerland. And then pathogens 11 through 18 is owned by Bill Gates through the Bryant Institute out of England. And the 19th pathogen is owned by Chinese intelligence, through the Ministry of State Security. Chinese intelligence through the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which the 19th pathogen is a combination of the first 18 through what we call reverse engineering. Oh, it's demonic. But getting back to, and I love how we're flowing tonight, getting back to the greatest global cover-up in human history with Lyndon Baines Johnson, he gave us the Welfare Act, food stamps, in other words, it almost destroyed the psyop of Black people, because up until that time, up until the New Deal of 64 and 65, every Black home had a father. And Brother Gordon, the greatest tragedy in Black America is not racism. I want everyone to hear me tonight. The greatest tragedy in Black America or any Black family throughout the world is not racism. The greatest tragedy is the lack of Black fathers in homes. That's the tragedy. Because when you have that Black father in that home, or any father, right?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Or any father, regardless of race, creed, or color, that father can navigate that son and daughter how to navigate around racism. So you got this victim mentality, this sense of entitlement through food stamps, welfare, producing the ghetto industrial complex, which the Robert Taylor homes, which were torn down in the mid-2000s, Robert Taylor was the grandfather of Valerie Jarrett. The father of Valerie Jarrett was a proponent of Black eugenics. Yeah. Valerie Jarrett's father, James E. Bowman, who died in 2011, received millions of dollars from the Pritzker family in Chicago, who are proponents of eugenics, transhumanism, and transmutation.
And they were doing those eugenic sterilization operations until 1981 is the last one on the books. Like, it's not something that they did in the 30s or 40s that people might think. Like, they did that shit till the early 80s. I'm going to be doing an episode on Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger on into the future. But, like, that's fucking, crimes against humanity. Like, that's like Nazi shit. That's experimenting on Jews.
Yeah, and you look at the Kellogg family, They were proponents, the ones who made the cereal, they were proponents of eugenics. Yeah. The Kellogg, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg was a proponent of eugenics. Theodore Roosevelt, FDR were proponents of eugenics. Blind Helen Keller was a proponent of eugenics, but yet she was blind. It's hypocritical. And I'm not making fun of blind people. Helen Keller was a proponent of eugenics. And so is a man by the name of Jeffrey Morgan Steibel, who is the former business partner of Kobe Bryant. Jeffrey Steibel knew Jeffrey Epstein. They sat on the Lifeboat Foundation, which is a foundation that are proponents of not just singularity and through depopulation, but they are proponents, my brother, of a mental psyop of death, teaching people of color to depend on the system. Well, Jeff Steibel was a part of the Lifeboat Foundation, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, including Barack Obama,
while also, and to put extra layers on that, while also we have the house Negro mentality where they're like, we're on the welfare, but I don't want to be rich and successful anyway, because that means that I'm after selling out to the man. And at the same time as well, being in that, keeping it on the DL, like, I don't want any gay shit. Like, black men are absolutely, like, allergic to even, you know, engage with that kind of stuff. Like, being gay to black men is, like, absolute no-nos. So then if they're in a certain situation where they get, you know, buck broken, they can never, ever, 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 ever say anything to anybody ever. It's like the worst thing because it's like societally drilled into them. So that means as soon as you know, pop that cherry, you own them because they'll never tell anybody. So there's all of these societal layers of like sub-psychological control.
And this is a powerful foundation. It's amazing. And this is a powerful foundation. Maybe we're just probably getting to the Black Boule Secret Society concerning laying this foundation for the greatest global cover-up in human history. This Lyndon Baines Johnson's Great Society was the catalyst, okay, for victim mentality among Black people, you know, to the point where Black kids say, well, I don't need a father. If there's a Black father and a Black mother in that home, or any type or any color, then you all of a sudden you are a sellout. What type of thinking is that? It means you're stable, okay? And so then
you're a bitch. What do they say? Yeah. A bitch N-word. That's the you're staying in the home. You're not going out getting pussy and doing what you're doing. Like, it's like, no, I'm a good husband and father. No.
And this is the psyop. This is the slave mentality of America. This is a slave cotton psychology that I have to depend on Nancy the Ripper Pelosi and Chucky Schumer. Okay.
Do you think that's why they're calling it the Green New Deal, to try and re-invoke that kind of Lyndon B. Johnson signage and try to get that kind of atmosphere back? The Green New Deal is evoking those memories.
And the Green New Deal is after a woman who is a former bartender, okay, with her legs spread open. Come on, man. See, this is the psyop of people on the left that they want to keep. Every time Bill or Hillary Clinton gets in trouble, or Joe Biden, they go to a Black church. And then they talk to us, Brother G, like we're stupid. Oh, you remember the plantation? Nobody knows at all. Oh, you know, Amazing Grace. Oh, that's just stupid. And then Black people go crazy because of predictive programming. They are mental slaves. Okay, even the N-word. Brother Sam and I talked about that. That N-word, the word Negro, and this is the reason why we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. It starts with the foundation, not just Kobe Bryant, but with the Boule Secret Society. So we examined the term, the etymology of the word Africa, that is not the original name of the continent. So Black people have to cut themselves off from that root, that psyop, that is not the name of the original continent. That is the name of a family who practiced spirit cooking, and pedophilia, and were some of the major child traffickers during the Roman Empire. And that is the Scipio Africanus family. Okay. And he's got a brother named Asiaticus Africanus, from whence Asia is named after the younger brother of Scipio Africanus. The entire continent is named after some of the most powerful families within the Roman Empire deep state. And so again, it was through Lyndon Baines Johnson's Great Society that Black people are in the condition that they're in today, which brings us to today. Okay,
Bishop Larry, do you think that that kind of pedophilia and human trafficking, the trafficking of women and children for, you know, use as sex slaves, do you think that was part of like the slave trade when they got Africans and transported them over to America? Do you think that was the main reason, or was it for work, or what do you think?
Yes, that's an excellent question, Brother Gordon. During the transatlantic slave trade, okay, every child, every man, every woman was raped on those slave ships. And as a side note, when you look at the schematical structure of a slave ship on a painting online or a picture within a frame, that slave ship is shaped like a athletic tennis shoe. I kid you not. So then, like I said 15, 20 minutes ago, the Nike Corporation, a part of the athletic industrial shoe complex, they target the psyop of Black people. Half of Nike's sales, including Puma, are made from the psyop of a people who don't love who they are. So the structure of the slave ship is actually the shape of a athletic tennis shoe. So within the slave ship, from the western coast of not Africa, but Aquilon or Edom, from the slave through the last passage, through the middle passage from Ghana and Nigeria and Niger, which took them months to get to the eastern shores of the United States. Black men were raped by men, slave masters. Black women were raped by female slave masters. Babies were raped by men and female slave masters. So they were already broken before they got to the shores of these United States of America. So that's a psyop of a people that all they can call themselves is the N-word. Well, the word Negro comes from the Greek word necro, capital N-E-C-R-O, which means autopsy of flesh or having sex with a dead body. That's what the term Negro means. Necromancy, necrophilia, necrophiliac, Negro, or N-I-G-G-E-R. Represents a mental psyop of death. So Negro, necro, and there's many other interpretations of Negro according to the language in the dialect that you're going to interpret that word from. But in Greek, I'm going to interpret Negro from the word necro, N-E-C-R-O, which means necrophilia, or having sex with the dead body. So every time a person calls their brother or sister that name, they're putting a curse. And you see, that's why the Bible says people destroy for the lack of knowledge, because that term Negro or the N-word is a term of endearment to a people who are still on the plantation, Brother Gordon.
Of the mind.
Why?
Yeah.
It's the mind. It is a psyop of death. And you got people like Barack Hussein Obama and Michelle Obama, and all of these black politicians.
I'm still not convinced on the Michelle Michael thing. I have to say, I'm not 100% convinced. But I seen her dancing on Ellen, and I seen something. There was something in them trousers. But I've read all the stuff and seen all the old pictures and stuff like that, but I'm not a hundo P on it, I have to say.
They're big news. You look at Black Lives Matter and Me Too, they're all being subsidized by billionaires like George Soros, who is nothing but a Nazi. Black people are going to react emotionally. This is how these think tanks in the deep state do. They put something out there, or a kid gets shot by a white cop because the kid was pulling a gun. But and you got people like Reverend Al, vitamin B deficient Sharpton. Reverend got 20 kids all over the country, Jackson. You got all of them, and they're all Boules. Jesse Jackson is a Boule. Louis Farrakhan was a mega sci-fi. He's Boule. Yeah. They're all not only Boules, my brother, but they're all, get this, Prince Hall Masons. They're Black 33rd degree Masons. Now, no Black person or person of color cannot become a 33rd and 1/2 degree. That's another teaching for them. That's Scottish Rite Order. That's into Luciferian Rothschild dimensionality order. But only Black people, the highest degree they can go to is 33rd degrees, okay? And as a sign of, remember when Kobe was assassinated, the sheriff of LA County, okay, Alex Villanueva, who gave that press conference, he is the 33rd sheriff in the history of the LA County Sheriff's Department. He's the 33rd sheriff. Nothing's by accident. So then the Boule Secret Society, the Divine Nine, they protect the 9 Knights of the Round Table. Jesse Jackson is a Boule. Reverend Al Vitamin B Deficient Sharpton is a Boule. Okay, Oprah Winfrey is a Boule. Louis Farrakhan They're all Boules, okay? And they're making millions of dollars off of the ignorance of Black people. Do you know, my brother, there is a term in the Black community called bag overhead syndrome. Again, bag overhead syndrome. And your people can look it up within the Urban Dictionary. There is a psyop in the Black community here in the United States. I don't know how it is in Ireland, but here in the Black community, they say, well, if a woman is ugly and you want to have sex with her, just put a bag over her face and have sex. That came out of slavery during the 1600s through Willie Lynch, where Willie Lynch would teach the slave masters, teach them to get the Black female slave and put a burlap sack over her face, and get her son and put a burlap sack over his face and force them to have sex. This is where you get the psyop or the etymology of the term mother F. That came from slavery. That came from the psyop of slavery. So when Black people or any people call each other mother F, they have invoked that spirit that happened 400 or 500 years ago when mothers were forced to have sex with their sons in order to give birth to the next generation of slave field Negroes. Oh, this is the reason why we are a part of the greatest global cover-up in human history.
That's
it's
fucked
deep,
up, man.
brother.
That last one was fucked up. I didn't know that you're like, you motherfucker. Like what you mean when you're saying it is like,
but they don't know the origin where that word comes from.
Yeah,
that's it. Oh, your mind's being blown right now.
That motherfucker that got me. That got me with the bag overhead. Yeah. Jesus.
Oh, and that's what they use. And so that's the psyop that came from Willie Lynch, dividing the dark from the light. The light would occupy the big house. The dark complected would be the field Negroes. It is a psyop, a Willie Lynch psyop that is working today. You know, LBJ said after he signed the Great Society, the New Deal in 64 and 65, he says, I will keep these ends in the Democratic Party for 300 years. It has worked.
Yeah.
Black people cannot get and now there's a revolution going on. Black people are beginning to wake up and they're leaving and they're walking away, Brother Gordon, from the plantation of the Democratic Party and coming home to their Christian conservative roots. You know, and that's a side note. There are two constitutions here in the United States of America. Okay, man, we haven't even gotten to COVID-19 yet.
Yeah,
there are two constitutions in America. The original Constitution is 1776, and the second Constitution, which is the counterfeit Constitution of 1871, enacted through the Vatican by Pope Pius IX, who was not only a 31.5 degree Mason, but he was a member of the Jesuit Secret Society. Now, all of you lovers of the John Wick movies, okay, with Keanu Reeves, John Wick, the premise of the John Wick movie is based upon not only the assassins who were Knights Templar, the video game Assassin's Creed, who are Knights Templar, but the Knights Templar later became the precursor for the Jesuit Secret Society that was created not in the Vatican, okay, but in Paris, France in 1540 by 7 assassins who represented the interests of the Vatican system.
Yeah.
And the head director of the Jesuit Secret Society was an assassin by the name of St. Ignatius of Loyola, which many colleges and universities are named after him. He is one of the most ruthless assassins in European history who represented the military-industrial complex, okay, that would represent the interests of the papacy system. And quickly, as a sign up before we get to you, every single pope in history, even up to this day to Pope Francis, are all related through Illuminati blood. That's another topic for another day. Okay,
we've done a big episode on the Vatican, 7.5 hours. I went deep, went hard, has all that information. There's another episode coming up on the Jesuits, and we've got an episode on the Illuminati as well. The documentary I was talking about is Dinesh D'Souza's Death of a Nation. So I know you'll remember the movie from the early 20s, Birth of a Nation, which reinvigorated the second wave of the Ku Klux Klan in North America. This one's called Death of a Nation, and it is basically like telling the story of the real Democratic Party until the great swap or the great switch in the mid-60s, when they decided, oh yeah, let's just like make the Republicans look like they're the ones who are, you know, white, bigoted racists, and let's like wash our hands of our nefarious slave-owning past or what have you. It's a really good documentary.
See, and that's it.
Get it. I don't know
and,
where it can be got.
Are you still over there, brother?
I am. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh. It looks like we were cut off again.
I don't know what the fuck is going on with the internet, Larry. I'm sorry about that, man. Apparently it's happening. It's happening all over Dublin. It's happening all over the place. So it's not just Bill Gates hacking into us.
No problem. You may mention of the Birth of the Nation.
Yes.
Now, D.W. Griffith is a very interesting character. He was the creator, the producer, and the director of this film during the early 1900s. Now, D.W. Griffith's father lost their farm to foreclosure in Kentucky when D.W. Griffith was a child. Guess who bought the farm? A black family.
Don't know.
So you see, so the psyop of racism was already within the mind of D.W. Griffith, and there's a lot of historians that believe that wasn't even his real name.
Yeah.
But he received his financial backing, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. D.W. Griffith got his financial backing from the Jewish Hollywood elite, okay, from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Paramount, and many other Hollywood studios during that time. And again, I'm not anti-Semitic. This is nothing against my Jewish brothers and sisters, but Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Columbia Pictures, okay, RKO was all Khazarian Mafia ran, okay, and so then D.W. Griffith got his financial backing from the powers that be of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, who were Jewish, okay, but yet they're supposed to be anti-Semitic, and they destroy any person, okay, that is anti-Semitic, but yet they back a known racist at that time, D.W. Griffith, who got his financial backing from the Jewish oligarchs in Hollywood, okay? So again, we have to tell the truth. We have to expose the truth. Even in black organizations like the NAACP, SNCC, CORE, Urban League, it's all Jewish ran. Why? They want to, and I'm not talking about 99.9% of Jewish people are beautiful people. I'm talking about the 1% who are Rothschilds, Khazarians, okay, Oppenheimers, the Pritzker family out of Chicago, who are proponents of transhumanism and transmutation. So they control the narrative in Hollywood. But now Hollywood is shut down. Okay, Hollywood is shut down. The sports and entertainment complex in Hollywood is shut down. Remember, they went after Mel Gibson. Okay, Mel Gibson exposed them. So D.W. Griffith, The Birth of a Nation was financially backed by the Rothschild dynasty through RKO, Columbia Pictures, okay, and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, okay. And so then, is that not anti-Semitic or anti-Black? And I'm going to say something else is going to blow away the minds of your listeners. They probably already know this, and I know that you know this. The Jews today, they're only Jews by religion, but they're not Hebrew by birth. You see, every Hebrew is a Jew, my brother, but not every Jew is a Hebrew. So Jews today are not Hebrew by birth, but they're Jewish through religion. That is based upon the book called the Talmud. The Talmud, T-A-M-U-D, and even though they are proponents of what they call the law, or the first 5 books of the Pentateuch or Moses, okay? This is what we call Judaism. But now between the books of Malachi and Matthew in the King James Version, which is called the 400 silent years when God did not speak to mankind for a period of 400 years, which is 4 days to God. Okay, another topic for another day. When Jerusalem was ransacked and invaded by the Khazarian Empire out of present-day Turkey and overtook the religion of Judaism and took the scroll of God, okay, the law, okay, the Torah. Torah means to God. Gospel means in God. So the Torah is the gospel unrevealed. The gospels are the Torah revealed. Another topic for another day. So they overtook the religion of Judaism, okay, away from the original Jews who were people of color. So the Jews you see today, they're only Jews by religion, but they're not Hebrew by birth. This is the reason why black people are in a mental state of death, because we don't know who we are. I know who I am, but the average person, even in black churches, Brother Gordon, they're so wrapped up in titles. Why? Because they're still on the plantation that they think that the title is who they are. A title is only what you are, but it's not who you are. So then getting back to the Jews today, I love my Jewish brothers and sisters, but they are not the original Hebrew. The term Hebrew means he rules. They're not, listen, they're only Jews by religion.
Is that why there's such a fascination with having their what do they call it, their birthright trip? When they go back to Israel, they get the DNA test and they get, I'm 98% Ashkenazi or whatever. Like, there's a lot of bloodline purity within the Jewish culture, where you're not really supposed to marry outside, and it's trying to keep that purity. Is that why? Because they feel that they're not really connected to anything, like they weren't for a really long time, until like the 50s, until Israel was created, right?
Exactly. Well, the state of Israel was created through the Rothschild dynasty, and I'm glad that you brought that up in 1948. Okay. And so it is interesting, after World War II in 1945, 3 years later, the state of Israel, and then the land that the state of Israel occupies today was occupied by the Palestinians prior to World War II. Okay. But the bloodline of the present day Jewish people, okay, doesn't go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The original bloodline of today's Jews goes back to Khazarian blood in Turkey. Okay. And again, I'm just my thing. I'm a contract killer. My job is to destroy, to decapitate darkness, and in order for the truth to be revealed. So, but the original Jews are people of color. Okay. So then the original picture, and I'm so glad that you and I are talking about this thing. We haven't begun to talk about COVID-19, and this is part one that
we should do that. We'll be here all night, man. We'll turn this leaf. I'll distract you no longer, and we can get into Bright and all that stuff.
We get to COVID-19. The original photo of Jesus, and there are many paintings of Jesus of blonde hair and blue eyes.
The Ewan McGregor from Star Wars Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. But Michelangelo, okay, was commanded, okay, by Pope Alexander to change the paintings of Jesus from a darker hue to a lighter hue. Okay, let me say this again. So then Pope Alexander had commanded Michelangelo, okay, to redo all of the paintings of Jesus from a darker hue to a lighter hue. Okay, and we're talking about going back to the early to mid 1500s. And so then when we talk about there was a prominent family within the Vatican system called the Borgia family, capital Borgia.
The Black Pearl.
Exactly. So this individual that we see portraying Jesus from the chest up, that was not the authentic Jesus or the original Jesus of the Gospels.
No,
okay,
it was an ugly, vain Italian dude with loads of money.
That was a man by the name of Caesar Borgia, who was the son of Pope Alexander.
And he was as ugly as fuck. He looks like a toe.
In information. Yeah. Wait a minute now. So then, Caesar Borgia, okay, during that time was a child molester, but yet he is portrayed as Jesus through the painting through Michelangelo, who was the uncle of Caesar Borgia.
Yeah.
See, this is mind-blowing. And I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. You're a great host, Brother Gordon, and you
Thanks,
interrupt me in time. That's the modern face of Jesus, but that's not the original Jesus of the Gospels. The original Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, was a man of color. The apostles were not white, blonde head and blue eye. I'm sorry. The apostles were men of color. And I'm not making this a black and white issue, but as we have to redo the foundation before we even talk about COVID-19, the foundation has to be redone, okay? Unearthed. Getting down to the origin of the terms Africa, Africanus, okay? Caesar Borgia being the painting of Jesus with long hair, blue eyes, with the chest up. That was Caesar Borgia, okay?
Bishop Larry, those guys in Florence during the Renaissance are the original fake news. Like Claire and I went there last summer and went on tours, of a bunch of videos made and everything. Like the Doge's Palace is like the home of fake news. Like all of that stuff. You're talking Venice, you're talking Florence, you're talking, those places where art was created to tell the world's history. They made that shit up because it was easier than telling the truth. And then everybody forgot about it for ages. And then when they went to look back on it, they went, oh yeah, that must be what happened. Like that must be what the history is. And it's like, no, these are a bunch of artists making shit up. It'd be like if, in like 350 years time, a bunch of people found DVDs of like, I don't know, Lost. And they were like, oh, one time a magical island existed and a fat guy managed to stay fat for 16 weeks on an island with no food. It was a miracle. Like they just read intention into whatever bullshit. Like it's so mad that people still have that. Like my granny had one of those, those hologram Jesus pictures, the Sacred Heart, and it looks like, Barry Gibb or something hanging over the kitchen and his eyes would follow you around, and you're like, Jesus probably looked like a black Danny DeVito in real life. He didn't look like fucking, one of the Bee Gees. It's so weird how it's rewritten.
And this is how, I don't call it white supremacy. I don't give white supremacy no power. To me, white supremacy does not exist. It only exists if you and I give it power.
Yeah.
This was a demonic psyop through slavery to change the mental perception of black people of how they see themselves. So Pope Alexander VI had commanded Michelangelo to use his son, Caesar Borgia, because the original name of Pope Alexander was not Pope Alexander, it was the Borgia dynasty, okay? Their names are only changed when they become ordained as a pope. So then Caesar Borgia, who not only practiced spirit cooking, but also he was a pedophilist, but yet he is the face of Jesus. And no, the real Jesus of the gospel, okay, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name is the Lord Jesus Christ, was a man of color. Now, I'm not getting into black and white, but you touch a powerful nerve with me. Caesar Borgia is the painting of that they're saying is Jesus from the chest up. That's not the photo or the painting of the original Jesus.
But those guys, the
the
Medicis, the Borgias, even like, Constantine, the popes, the emperors, they were emperors and popes over like a white population. And they knew for a fact that they wouldn't be able to control the hearts and minds and thoughts and beliefs and actions, invariably, of a white population with a Jesus of color. So they were like, fuck it, make them white, because they're not going to ever do anything that a black lad says. So of course they were going to make them white. That's The original fake news. The thing, I wonder about all the apostles' names. They all became very, how would you say, Central European, possibly. Paul and Mark and John. Like, where the fuck have you ever, do you ever see a lad like in Jerusalem called Mark? Do you know? It's very odd.
And check this out too. What you're saying is so powerful, my friend. When Jesus, his mother and his stepfather Joseph went to Egypt, when the Magi, and there were more than just three Magi who saw Christ in the manger. And mind you, when you look at Kobe Bryant's Nike system, Nike logo, okay, not just of the Nike sign, which according to Greek mythology is a demon. Maybe somebody going to say, oh, it means goddess, or goddess is a demon. But the manger psyop symbol that Kobe Bryant used in his Nike system is an inverted manger, okay? That Jesus was born in 2,000 years ago. Kobe Bryant got into inversion. So he is a member of the Theosophical Secret Society and the Thelema Secret Society. So instead of Christ in the manger, it has the Nike logo above it.
Is that why Nike has their motto as "Just do it"? So it's like "Do as thou wilt," like the same as the Thelemic Society.
Yes. Oh, that's excellent. Do as thou wilt. See, it is that Baphomet psyop, because when oh my God, you hit another nerve with me. The British writer J.K. Rowling.
Oh man, she got the tattoo. I saw the tattoo.
Yeah, you saw it. Yeah. So a coagula. Yeah. That is the words on both of the arms of Baphomet. Right? J.K. Rowling is also a 33rd degree Mason. She is a Satanist. And in the way that she wrote her books on Harry Potter was through not just remote viewing, but automatic handwriting. She had said in many interviews that through automatic handwriting, a spirit, an entity, a demon overtook her mind and her fingers to write the Harry Potter series. Okay, that's remote viewing, but it's also automatic handwriting. That's witchcraft.
Demon possession, yeah. We talked about that before, saying that it was possibly, there was no way that she could have like put out that prolific amount of work on her own, so that we were thinking like that maybe because we discussed it before, maybe it was written by committee, so that they had a bunch of writers and they were all like working out the storylines and stuff like that. Or it could have been a bunch of people commanding a djinn or some kind of like one of the archons spirit to come down to embody her, so that she'd be able to get that story out. Like some of the themes and stuff in Harry Potter are really weird and dark, and it has like captured the imagination of kids, and it's indoctrinating them into certain like societal norms. We go into it more detail in a different show, but like super dark stuff. Like it's grand, Harry Potter. Do you know what I mean? It's for kids, but at the same time, like what? It's Harry Potter. It's for kids. It's fucking weird, man. That's like watching Baywatch and seeing Pamela Anderson's titties bounce, and then you're like, it makes me feel funny in my tummy, but I don't know why. But it's on at 6:00 in the evening, and you know it's probably fine. But like it's just maybe not quite right. And then the fact that she came back after and tried to rewrite everybody's sexuality and sexual identity to match with this kind of modern day PC culture, you know, the transgender agenda. She started coming in going like, yeah, and everybody in Harry Potter is actually like trans, and you know, everyone's gay, and she's a very weird character, I think, J.K. Rowling herself. Very weird.
Yeah, there was an opt-ed about her back in the March 31st, 2012, tapnewswire.com, where J.K. Rowling says, I was helped in writing Harry Potter. Okay. In other words, she wanted to induce automatic handwriting. In other words, a demon, a principality overtook her, not just her mind through remote viewing, but also through automatic handwriting. Do you know that the creation of the Alcoholics Anonymous in 1935, okay, as a side note, Bill Wilson, his wife, and Dr. Bob, who created Alcoholics Anonymous, and when I'm about to say I'm not castigating those who have been through AA, okay, or now in AA, But the premise of the 12-step program came because of a seance in the home of Bill Wilson. A seance where they were using a Ouija board, my brother, to invoke the spirit of Pope Boniface VIII, the same Pope back in 1302 who created Unum Sanctum, okay? That every soul through the art of the birth certificate would belong to the Pope. They were invoking Bill Wilson, okay, his wife and Dr. Bob were invoking the spirit or the demon of Pope Boniface VIII, which gave them information to create what we call the 12-step program today. It didn't come from God. Bill Wilson says it came from a higher power.
What?
He doesn't say God. Why would
you call up the Pope, who's like essentially the bank manager of the Bank of Souls that the Vatican owns? Like, why would you call him up and ask him for advice unless you wanted to own everybody?
Yes.
That's fucking weird.
This lie that, again, Alcoholics Anonymous was God ordained. It was not the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name is the Lord Jesus Christ. It was through a seance invoking the spirit of Boniface.
I always felt there was something weird with Alcoholics Anonymous, Larry, because I'm nearly 10 years sober now. I didn't go, never went. I did it myself, and I had my meditations, and one day at a time, sweet Jesus. But like, I was absolutely abhorrent of AA, and I feel that it's almost like a religious cult, and people go into it, and they then they're swapping like one vice for another vice, and they have to evangelize it the whole time and all. It's like, again, like yourself, not saying that bad, but if that helps you get off whatever shit that you're on and you want to get away from it, like whatever works. But it just feels, for some people, it just catches them the wrong way, and it ends up turning them into like Bible bumpers, like, it's weird and silly because it takes the fucking most vulnerable people in society and then like indoctrinates them in a very weird version of Christianity. Do you know?
It does. Yeah. And it's so interesting that, again, I'm not cascading any of your listeners who may be going through that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But but the origin, the foundation of it was based on a seance, a Ouija board. And mind you, when you take the word Vatican and spell it from right to left, because Hebrew is written from right to left, in both Greek and Persian mythology, okay, Nasatav, capital Nacitav, which means dark lord, with a small l, which is a high-ranking demon in both Greek and Persian demonology. That's Nazatov, which is Vatican spelled backwards.
Is it that easy? Do they hide the codes that obviously? Like Vatican spelled backwards?
This is what they do. This is what they do. And, and so even throughout the Bible, especially in Genesis chapter 1, not to get away, haven't got into COVID-19 yet, but in Genesis chapter 1, 10 times does it say, and God said. Well, take the word and spell it backwards, you get the word DNA. So the universe, according to a lot of Jewish scholars like Nachmanides and Maimonides, they believe, and I believe this, that the universe was created in 10 dimensions, right? Because and God said 10 times. So the term universe, uni means unity, and verse means the scriptures. So universe means the unity of the scriptures. So that's another topic for another day. Yeah. Now let's get into COVID-19.
Let's do it before the internet gets stolen on us again by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Let's take this puppy home.
I ain't blown yet, my brother. I'm telling you, this is some powerful information here. Now, COVID-19 now. Now, in 2006, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history, in 2006, here is a pharmaceutical company by the name of the Chiron Corporation, capital Chiron Pharmaceutical Corporation, out of Emeryville, California. Now, the term Chiron, for your listeners, is the name of a Greek demon or entity in Greek mythology who was half man, half beast, who had a pedophilia relationship with the child Achilles. Well, this is why these pharmaceutical companies name themselves after names of fallen angels or demons. So Chiron had created the pathogen of the protein called SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome. Now, for your listeners, they can go to the website, okay, of the National Institutes of Health website, okay, or the National Library of Medicine, which is the National Center for Biotechnology, NIH, the National Institutes of Health, and just type in the upper right-hand corner, okay, the U.S. patent number, US 200-625-7852. So then when they type US 200-625-7852, it gives the first 10 pathogens, because every strain within COVID-19 is called COVID-19, but not because it came out last year. It's called COVID-19, Brother G, because there are 19 pathogens or strands or proteins or what we call sequences that make up the coronavirus or COVID-19. So the first 10 sequences were patented by the Chiron Corporation, but the Chiron Corporation was sold to a mammoth global pharmaceutical group called the Novartis AG Group out of Basel, Switzerland, for $5.7 billion in 2006. Now, as we get closer here, so Chiron was sold to the Novartis AG Group, okay? Now, the half of the shares are owned by two Americans, Bill Gates and George Soros. Bill Gates through the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation and George Soros through his Open Society Foundations here in New York City. So the Novartis AG Group owns 2,500 subsidiary pharmaceutical companies, 3 of which were being sued by Kobe Bryant.
Right.
The NSAID Therapeutic Corporation, capital INSYS, which owns the Acorn Incorporation, capital AKORN, which owns High-Tech Pharmaceuticals out of Lacrosse, Georgia. So the owners of these 3 entities, NSAID, Acorn, and High-Tech, were owned by a billionaire by the name of John Kapoor, who is serving a 66-month prison sentence because he was lacing his weight loss pills with opioid substances by using Kobe Bryant's nickname, the Black Mamba. That's why Kobe Bryant was going to expose them.
Is that why that Black Mamba thing was? That he was
yes.
getting people addicted to his diet pills by getting them addicted to opium on the down low.
Right. And so in other words, they were using Kobe's moniker, the Black Mamba, which is rooted in Greek and Persian dark arts or demonology. Okay, so we're going to get into that in about 5 minutes. But the Novartis AG Group bought the first 10 patents of the coronavirus, patents 1 through 10, okay, in 2006. And then the following 10 patents, or 9 patents from patents 11 to 18 are owned by the Purbright Institute out of England through the financial backing through the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation. And the 19th pathogen, which we call it COVID-19, is owned by Chinese intelligence through the Ministry of State Security, which is the Chinese equivalent of the American CIA, okay, through the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So the 19th pathogen sequence is a combination of the first 18 that are owned by both Novartis AG out of Basel, Switzerland, and the Purbright Institute out of England. Through reverse engineering, they created COVID-19. As early as 2015, the Chinese government was recruiting scientists all over the world to create the 19th pathogen, which you and I call COVID-19.
So the Chinese guys went out and got like one of the original 18 and tried to like deconstruct it in the Wuhan virology lab to try and find out what it is. For what reason? The only thing I can think of top of my head is probably to use it as like a weapon, a biological weapon, something like that.
Absolutely. You see, the Chinese want global domination, just like the Soviets did post World War II. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in 2013, President Xi Jinping, who is the present day president and premier of China,
Winnie the Pooh for life.
He's set for life. He belongs to a Masonic lodge out of Hong Kong called the Zetland Masonic Lodge 525, along with his entire cabinet. Also, a billionaire by the name of Jack Ma of the Alibaba Group belongs to the same lodge. I'm going to come to him in a minute because he's giving Bill Gates millions of dollars to create a vaccine.
Yeah, he's giving lots of people lots of money to do stuff that might not be right. But he's got infinity money, so he's just like, oh, that's a good idea.
Exactly. And so then Kobe Bryant was suing these three pharmaceutical companies that were under the umbrella of Novartis, the NSA Therapeutic Corporation, the Acorn Corporation with a K, and the High Tech Pharmaceuticals. Now, the billionaire who runs High Tech now is a billionaire by the name of Jared Wheat, okay, who is under two indictments from the FBI, okay, for lacing his weight loss pills with opioid substances, just like his boss, John Kapoor. And he's under indictment from the Security Exchange Commission, okay, because of insider trading. So Kobe was scheduled to go to trial that following Wednesday on the 29th, had he lived, to expose the Novartis AG group, which is half owned by Bill Gates and George Soros. So they were not going to allow a former athlete, a black former athlete, to expose them, okay? Not just Novartis owns many of these patents, okay, of COVID-19, including the Purbright Institute. Going back, first 10 patents are owned by the Novartis AG group in Basel, Switzerland, and patents 11 to 18, Brother G, are owned by the Purbright Institute. And then both Novartis and Purbright sold the pathogens in 2018, which is the same year that China and the Vatican made a global agreement that China would control who gets to be Chinese bishop. Wait a minute, now I'm confused. China doesn't even believe in God. So you're going to allow Beijing to run the Vatican by choosing bishops in China and to ordain bishops. In other words, this global conspiracy between China and the Vatican in 2018 is the same year, my brother, that all 18 pathogens, okay, were sold to the Chinese Communist Party through Chinese intelligence, okay, the Ministry of State Security, which is the Chinese equivalent of the American CIA, that through the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the Wuxi Pharma Aptech. Wuxi is spelled capital W, capital Xi, which is a subsidiary of the Wuhan Institute, whose address is 666 Goixin Road, capital GAOXIN. So they, through reverse engineering, took the previous pathogens or strands of the coronavirus to create the 19th pathogen, which they have unleashed upon the world. Why? Because China wants to become the new superpower.
Can I ask you quickly, in those 18, are any of those like the SARS and the MERS? The MERS was the one that predominantly affected the Middle East, but like
yes.
SARS and MERS, is that one of those like COVID-4 and then COVID-9? That's like SARS and MERS. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's crazy. And they don't want anybody to find this out. So Kobe was going to sue the company for using the name Black Mamba on the drugs.
No, not just that, but he found out that they were lacing the pills that had his nickname, the Black Mamba, lacing them with opioid addictive substances on a global scale.
And that's all he was suing them for. There was
yes.
Right. So it was just like a copyright or defamation case.
Well, he tried to blackmail them. He said, either you give me that nickname, Okay. Or I'm going to expose your road in the global opioid crisis.
Shit. Yeah. So it'd all come out in court then. Obviously, if you went into the financials, you'd be able to see, like, follow the money and see where it goes and see that everybody's connected, and also see that there was a big sale to the CCP in 2018 where they sold them all, presumably to be stripped for parts and made into like some kind of superbug. It's very funny to me that Kellyanne Conway a couple of weeks ago, Larry, on the news came out and said, like, you want to watch this COVID-19. Like, you think that like this is the only one. There's been 18 other COVIDs before this, and she got absolutely like, she was made to look like a fucking dickhead by the news media. You had Trevor Noah making fun of her. They were all like, she thinks there's loads of other COVID. It's because it was found or discovered in 2019. And that's the prevailing story, that there's not 18 other COVIDs. I didn't know that there was 18 others and that the copyrights were owned by... I had heard about Pirbright owning at least a copyright.
Yes.
But the fact that she was so heavily ridiculed for saying that shit makes me think like they were trying to just distract, because people went, what? There's 18 other COVIDs, and they start doing like a precursory search on Google and find that information pretty quick. So they had to just shut that shit down. It seems very damning. I mean, if this is not like gross public knowledge, like why isn't it, and should it be? I guess it will be now if I put it out in this show.
And my brother, again, check this out. All 19 strands, pathogens and proteins of each strand of COVID-19, not only have, each strain has a application number. Yeah. Each strain has a patent number. You see, so then each strand is designed through genome sequencing, okay, to attack
certain ethnicities. Boom. Fuck, I didn't think of that either. So that's why like COVID-9 or whatever, that's MERS, that only affects people from the Middle East, and SARS only affects Asian people because that was like predominantly in Asia.
You got it.
So COVID-19, I'm going to guess from just intuition, COVID-19 is aimed to take black people out of the equation.
It is. It is designed to take us out of the equation, because a couple of weeks ago, and that's a powerful point you just made, Brother Anji, President Trump said in one of his briefings that Black America is being hit hard, and he prefaced this by COVID-19, not 18, 17, or 16, 19, because it's been genetically designed to colonize, capital C-U, WLENIZED, to colonize the anatomy of black people of not African descent, but Enoch descent. Okay, so certain pathogens, certain COVID sequences have the mushroom tips, certain ones don't have the mushroom tips. Yeah. It's designed to attack a certain ethnic group on a certain part of the continent of the world. This is strategic, okay? This is depopulation. This is what solve coagulation means, that we must dissolve a certain populace or population in order to make room for another population, the bloodline or the royal elite. This is what's happening today. That's COVID-19.
Is that why the people in Wuhan are now back out the streets and they're walking around? They're still practicing social distancing, but they're going to work and they're going to shops. But what's happening at the same time is they are forcibly extricating black families from China and like getting them out, packing them up and fucking them off. Like China's like expunging all the black people that live there at the moment, and it's on the down low, but it's like it's findable. They had like soldiers and armed riot police forcibly pulling a family out as they held on to the door frames being pulled out of the thing. Like it was pretty rough. It seems some live leak videos on Reddit and stuff like that. Like they're literally baiting black people out of their houses with batons in China at the moment. Is that because they know that they've been told, like, come here, if you want to get rid of coronavirus, you have to get rid of the black people because they're the ones that are going to hold on to it?
That's it, because COVID-19 is designed, and it's killing everyone, but really people of color, because of the how the gene how the genes of Black people, all genes are the same, right?
Yeah.
But there is the immune system of people of color are infected by certain diseases.
Like sickle cell and stuff like that.
Like sickle cell.
Yeah.
Again, you hit a powerful nerve. Prior to 1913, sickle cell anemia did not exist on the African continent. Where did it come from? Sickle cell anemia did not exist on the African continent or anywhere on this planet prior to 1913. Okay? Right, exactly. Remember the Zika virus?
Yeah.
That's a biological weapon targeted against Latin American people. It is not by accident. Okay?
It was a eugenics program. We did an episode about that, and it basically scared South American people into not having kids for 3 years, and now there's a massive gouge in their population pyramid that'll go on into like generations and generations. Their birth rate is way down because they were like, them Hispanics are riding each other too much and having too many babies. Here, give them an old scare there. Very weird scenario, that.
Man, it's weird. And you know what? It's interesting that we talked about the first 10 pathogens of COVID-19 owned by the Novartis AG Group, okay, whose CEO I'm going to expose in a few minutes, an Indian billionaire whose family is heavily connected to Chinese, to Indian intelligence. I'm going to come to that maybe 5 to 10 minutes down in the interview here tonight.
Cool.
But the Bryant Institute had created in 2008 the European Virus Archive, or EVA, capital EVA. The European Virus Archive was created by the Bryant Institute and given to the European Union of Nations to keep a catalog of viruses that the Western powers had created. So then you go on the website, the National Institutes of Health.gov, upper right-hand corner, just type in Bryant Institute, okay? Capital PIRBRIGHT. So then the European Virus Archive, which went global when? In 2018. Oh, that's interesting. The same year that China established the Belt and Road Initiative, okay, where they had 126 nations under their thumb. In other words, through the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013, and especially in 2018, they were forcing nations to borrow money from the Chinese, right, in order for the Chinese to control the debt of these nations. And that's why Italy was the first one to sign up, and they were the first ones to get out of the initiative. And guess what? They're hit with COVID-19. Yeah. It's not by accident that the Italians are hit. So then, back in 2008, the European Virus Archive was created through the Bryant Institute with the financial backing of this demon Bill Gates, who is not a doctor, who's not a scientist, did not graduate from Harvard, but yet he's trying to push a vaccination upon you and I that he himself would not give to his children. So the European Virus Archive system, which Bryant created in 2008, now is controlled by the European Union and was sold to China in 2018. Okay, a year before the outbreak of the pandemic, the COVID-19, everything is synchronized. So in other words, the European Virus Archive is an archive of viruses that are created by every nation upon this earth: Africa, Russia, China, Turkey, Germany, Italy. Okay, now through the European Virus Archive, where COVID-19, or the 19th pathogen, was through reverse engineering sequence, which is a combination of the first 18 pathogens through the Novartis AG Group, pathogens 1 through 10, and through the Bryant Institute, pathogens 11 through 18. Now, there's another foundation called the International Society for Stem Cell Research, okay? Now, it's heavily funded by and through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, okay? The International Society for Stem Cell Research, okay? So, as we move on here, now, I know you've heard of the term the Lifeboat Foundation, or the Foundation Initiative, okay? Now, the Lifeboat Foundation was created by a billionaire by the name of Eric Klein, who made his millions on Wall Street during the 1990s at Goldman Sachs. Now, during the early part of the 2000s here, Eric Klein moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, and met a former Mossad agent by the name of Moshe Greenspan. Moshe Greenspan created two corporations, Phase 6, SIX LLC, and Church X, Church then XI, which they specialize in facial recognition software for churches. Wait a minute now. You're going to sell facial recognition software to pastors, okay, to keep control of their people. But they also, through Phase 6 and Church X, specialize in global simulation. And they were some of the financial backers of Event 201. Now, go ahead, brother.
Event 201, I was going to ask you about it. Now you dropped it, so yeah, go ahead.
Now, why is it called Event 201? Now, the 201st day of 2019 is July the 20th. Okay, that was the same date that Bill and Melinda Gates, including George Soros, okay, and Mark Zuckerberg, through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, had signified and authorized Event 201 to become a 501c3 entity, okay, and to become an incorporation. So on the 201st day of last year, minus the bleed year, Bill and Melinda Gates had financially backed the creation of Event 201 on the 201st day of the year as a 501c3 entity on July 20th of 2019, okay? Then later in October, they had the event here in New York City. Now, from July 20th, 2019, which is the 201st day of last year, minus the leap year, to December 31st is 164 days. Now, as of 2 weeks ago, according to the Center for Disease Control here in Atlanta, Georgia, 164 nations are infected with COVID-19. Is that by accident? No.
You think all those numbers are, that's not just like, the only way, if you want to find it, you'll find it if you're looking for it. Do you think those numbers are deliberate?
And as of 2 weeks ago, they were, and there are probably more nations now, but as of 2 weeks, according to the Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center, there were 164 nations that had the highest rate of COVID-19. But yet from July 20th, 2019, the 201st day of the year, the same date that Event 201 became an incorporation, a 501c3 entity, to December 31st is 164 days. So then, as of 2 weeks ago, according to Johns Hopkins University, through the Centers of Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, 164 nations were affected with COVID-19. There's probably more now, but at that time, 2 weeks ago, these numbers are not accidental, they're not random, Brother Gordon. It's all part of the gematria design of the global Luciferian deep state. And guess what? Kobe Bryant. Go ahead, brother.
Can I ask you what day? What day was? What day was the 201st day in 2019?
Yes, this was July the 20th.
So
yes, that's July the 20th, which is the 201st day. It's crazy. I had to really triple check it a month ago. I said, wait a minute now, let me.
The next day was when they turned on the first 5G mass. There's 27,000 transponders in Wuhan that was turned on the next day, the 21st of July.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a bit mad, isn't it? I wonder. Yeah, that's something. I'm going to look into that now.
Say that again, brother. That is so powerful.
Yeah, the day after they turned on the 21st of July 2019, they turned on all of the 5G. It was the first experimental 5G location was in Wuhan, and they had like 27,000 mini transponders and 13,000 large ones. They turned them all on that day, on the 201st day. That's a weird number. It's just the numbers, like you could find stuff, if you go in and look, but like
exactly.
Are you only finding what you're looking for, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, or is
it?
Yeah.
This is not by accident. Now, Kobe Bryant's business partner, it's crazy. That you taught me something I didn't know. Yeah. Kobe Bryant's business partner, a man by the name of Jeffrey Morgan Stiebel, was introduced to Kobe Bryant in 2013. Now, when you type in Jeffrey Morgan Stible's net worth, it doesn't come up. It comes up with Kobe Bryant's net worth. Why? When you type in Jeff Stible's net worth, it doesn't come up. It comes up with Kobe Bryant's net worth, over $600 million. So then they were introduced by someone we don't know to this day, but I'm still investigating that. Yeah. Jeffrey Morgan Stible is a brain scientist. He doesn't have an earned PhD from any university, though he has an honorary PhD from Pepperdine University, which is another CIA black op university. So then in 2013, Jeffrey Morgan Stible creates the Brain Gate, which along with the CIA's Brain Initiative program through the Barack Obama administration in 2013, they specialize in cognitive psyop, okay, or the manipulation of the human brain, okay, which another term we use, neuroplasticity, which a lot of scientists teach, Brother Gordon, that through neuroplasticity, that the human brain grows into the shape of what that individual is thinking at that moment, okay? So contagion is fear more so than it is physical, okay? It is a psyop. So the Brain Gate was created by Jeffrey Morgan Stible, okay, who also sits on the Lifeboat Foundation, which the creator is Eric Klein, who also meets Moshe Greenspan of Phase 6 LLC and Church X. Moshe Greenspan, I don't know if he's related to the former Fed chairman, Alan Greenspan, but Moshe Greenspan is a former Mossad agent. And as a side note, there is a massive pharmaceutical company in Tel Aviv, Israel, called Teva Pharmaceutics, or Teva, the Teva Industrial Corporation, capital Teva, which is ran by the Israeli Mossad. They were the ones that Kobe Bryant was going to sue also because they got caught up in this opioid crisis going back to 2018.
He was on the wrong case. That just took fucking hell.
Mossad, man. They don't care who you are. Okay, so you got CIA, you got the Mossad, you got MI5, MI6. Their tentacles are all through the global pharmaceutical industrial complex, okay? So that's why Kobe Bryant was taken out on the 26th of January 2020. Now, it's interesting. Now, as a side note, Kobe Bryant was 41 years old when he died. His last game in April 2016 against the Utah Jazz, he came out at 4.1 seconds. He was called out of the game at that time. There was a commercial with him and Kanye West some years ago through predictive programming. And Kanye West, the cartoon. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Kobe Bryant had a digital basketball that went down to 4.1 seconds.
Yeah.
Then he threw it's all predictive programming. And 41 days after Kobe's death is the birthday of Shaquille O'Neal. Nothing is by accident, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. Oh, man of God, this is scary, my brother, because the backers of Event 201 was not just Jeff Stible. Okay, I don't think Kobe Bryant knew how connected Jeff Stible was and still is into the U.S. intelligence community. So some of the backers of Event 201 is Mark Zuckerberg, his wife, Dr. Priscilla Zuckerberg, through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, also through the Open Philanthropy Project, which was created by two of the four founders of Facebook, Dustin Moskovitz and Mark Zuckerberg, along with Bill Gates, along with mini Mike Bloomberg, along with George Soros, were the financial backers of Event 201. Thereby, they created a simulation game called Crimson Contagion that was through the Department of Homeland Security and through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So Crimson Contagion is a live exercise that they practice here in the States between January to August of 2019 in predicting COVID-19. These devils knew they wanted to destroy President Trump. They couldn't do it through the Russian hoax. They couldn't do it through the Ukrainian hoax. with Joe Sleepy, creepy, sniffing Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, are going to be prosecuted. Joe Biden's not going to be president. But they want to destroy President Trump through this global psyop, but it's not going to work because President Trump is using COVID-19 against the deep state. How is he doing that? He said, okay, if you want debt, I am going to give the American people trillions of dollars. Now, remember the second Constitution I was teaching you about a half hour ago, 1871. The second Constitution tried to replace the first Constitution. Why, Brother Gordon? The first Constitution in 1776 had outlawed the Internal Revenue Service, which we call the IRS. The IRS is an illegal entity. So then the founding fathers, of the first Constitution in 1776, were against the taxation of the American people. Yeah. So the tax code was not a part of the first Constitution.
The revolution was a tax protest, sure. Like the creation of America was based around the reluctance to pay tax to Britain. Yeah.
That's it. And so according to the original document of 1776, the framers did not want a private banking system. They didn't want any Rothschilds or Warburg or Rockefellers. And the first Constitution was also against the tax code system of Great Britain. So after the Civil War, after the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln, now who shot him? A man by the name of John Wilkes Booth. Now, his last name Booth, that's not his real name. His last name was Botha, capital Botha, which is a Jewish South African name. Okay. Now, I'm going deeper here as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. John Wilkes Booth, who was hired by an attorney by the name of Simon Wolf of an organization called B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League. Now, listen, I'm not against the Jewish people. Okay, I'm not.
We'll put up a counter for the amount of times that's said today. Look,
right.
This is it, man. You can't. The people are doing stuff like Paul Rudd is Jewish. Do you know what I mean? Like Alison Brie is Jewish. The facts are facts. You know what I mean? Just it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've talked about, and we did a Freemasons episode, and we talked about the B'nai B'rith being like the extra 13 levels above the 33rd degree of the York Rite that only is available to people of Jewish heritage.
That's it. You see, because the great grandfather of John Wilkes Booth, was a man by the name of Richard Botha. Okay.
All right.
Now, the Botha family, these are the past bloodline families of John Wilkes Booth, whose name was changed from Botha to Booth through his father. Okay. So then the past Illuminati bloodline of the Botha bloodline goes back to the Spanish Inquisition during the 1400s. Wait a minute now. So the bloodline of John Wilkes Booth from the 1800s going back to the 1400s are a part of the Botha dynasty that was kicked out of Spain through Queen Isabella, because the Jewish, some of these Jewish Rothschild bloodlines were dominating the financial trade within Spain. So Queen Isabella, right before she sent Christopher Columbus, to the Americas, through the Spanish Inquisition, they had excommunicated every Jewish financial oligarch out of Spain and out of Europe. Why? Because they were blood-sucking the Spanish people financially. So the generations of the Botha bloodline going down to John Wilkes Botha, who had changed his name from Botha to Booth. Now, according to the book, the memoirs of Asia Booth, who was the younger sister of John Wilkes Booth, she had said, and I quote, that her brother John Wilkes Botha, that's his real name, not Booth, but it's Botha, was a member of the Virginia State B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League. That came from her words. You can get the book on Amazon Books. Listen, I'm a historian, Brother G. I don't throw stuff up against the wall to see if it's going to stick.
Yeah.
I am a historian, a teacher. So John Wilkes Booth was a member of the B'nai B'rith chapter of the Anti-Defamation League in Richmond, Virginia, who was hired by the ADL lawyer, by the name of Simon Wolfe, to assassinate the president with the financial backing, of the Rothschild dynasty. Why? Because President Lincoln did not want the Rothschild dynasty, through the order of the Vatican, the Jesuits, to take control of the money supply of these United States for America. Yes, I said for America, because the original Constitution says we were the United States for America. The 1871 state Constitution says we are the United States of America, a corporation. So President Trump, I believe, is going to, by the help of God, remove the second constitution of this corporation to get us back to the original Constitution of 1776, because the IRS is an illegal entity. No American should be taxed. Okay.
There are rumors of Trump after dissolving the Fed and taking executive control over the Federal Reserve. It's no longer a private corporate entity as it was for what it was said since 1913, since its inception. It's been a private corporate entity that's run by a dirty dozen.
And matter of fact, it was ran by oligarch Luciferian families who are not even American citizens and are not subject to any Senate or congressional oversight. Man, that's demonic.
Yeah.
So this second constitution and the term act, like this act or this policy act, that term act was not in the original Constitution in 1776, not through the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence, not dependence, Black people, but independence. So the United States was not designed to be a corporation. Yeah. We were not designed to be a democracy. We were designed to be a theocracy, one nation under God, whose name is the Lord Jesus Christ, with liberty and justice for all. We are a republic, not a democracy. The democratic part came in that 1871 Act of 1871, activating that Constitution, the second Constitution, through Pope Pius IX, who had, through Rothschild money, assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. So after Lincoln's assassination, then the Rothschilds, through Benjamin Philip Judah, I told you about him maybe during the first half hour of the broadcast tonight, Benjamin Philip Judah, or Judah Philip Benjamin, the creator of the Ku Klux Klan, not Nathan Bedford Forrest, and not Albert Pike. So white people had nothing to do with the creation of the KKK. Brother Gordon, this has been a lie perpetuated by the Democrats since 1865. Why? To divide and conquer. That's a psyop. As we're talking about the greatest global cover-up ever that was ever conceived, the greatest global cover-up in human history. So President Trump overtaking the Fed now, is slowly removing the second constitution of a corporation of the United States and bringing us back for the United States, known as the United States for America, not known as for America, not of America. So the second constitution, when President Trump took over the Fed, like you said a couple of minutes ago, he's removing, for all intents purposes, the second constitution that the bankers had put in back in 1871. This has never been done before. When JFK tried to do it, they blew his head off. Yeah. And as a side note, remember, who is this man, Abraham Zapruder, who had filmed the JFK assassination? Abraham Zapruder was, in 1963, the director of the Dallas, Texas chapter of B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Abraham Zapruder was the local chapter president of B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League. Now, they're doing great work today in fighting anti-Semitism. I don't have a problem with them. The problem I have with them is their past, okay? As we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. Now here, and now getting back to the Lifeboat Foundation, Jeffrey Seibel, Jeffrey Epstein sat on that board. Hillary Clinton sits on that board. Jeff Bezos of the Amazon Group sits on the Lifeboat Foundation. Elon Musk, okay, sits on the Lifeboat Foundation. The late Stephen Hawking, okay, who was a proponent of eugenics. Wait a minute now. He's in a wheelchair, but he's a proponent of eugenics. Just like Helen Keller. Stephen Hawking.
He's also the man who lasted the longest of anybody in the world's history with the condition that he had. Like he outlived expectations by 40, 50 years. Like that's unheard of, man.
It's amazing. So we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. We're going to have a part 2 to this, maybe next week or the next 2 weeks. So then quickly here, the Lifeboat Foundation, its owner, its founder, Eric Klein, is heavily connected with a former Mossad agent, Moshe Greenspan of Phase 6 LLC in Church X in Las Vegas, Nevada, where they specialize in global simulation, okay, in facial recognition software. So then as we come in here, so remember where Kobe Bryant died, in Calabasas, California. Calabasas, California is the 33rd congressional district in the state of California. District number 33, students, okay? So what was the design of the helicopter that Kobe died in? The S-76 Sikorsky B helicopter. Oh, okay. And when we go back to the early 1900s, there was a Russian Soviet Mason by the name of Igor Sikorsky. When you go to Wikipedia and type in Igor, capital I-G-O-R, Sikorsky, capital S-I-K-O-R-S-K-Y, go down to the middle of his profile page on Wikipedia, and you will find a 1914 photo of a young Igor Sikorsky, of his right hand inside of his jacket pocket. That is a high-ranking master veil mason, okay, with his thumb and his pinky outside of the coat. That represents the horn of Lucifer. Wait a minute now. So the man that created the Sikorsky line of helicopters, which was eventually sold to United Technologies, okay, going back in the 1990s, that Igor Sikorsky is of the Masonic bloodline going back to the court of Peter the Great in the 16 and 1700s in Russia, okay, the Soviet Union. So he is of an Illuminati Luciferian bloodline, the same man who created the aircraft that Kobe Bryant died in. Again, we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history here.
Bishop Larry, are these people like really that fascinated or are obliged to communicate with the public in such like easily discoverable symbolism? Like it seems like all you need to do is go and count up how many fucking days from the start of one thing to the start of another thing. The name of the helicopter, you look up the cunt and he's there like going like Napoleon, like with his hand in his jacket. Like it all seems super like obvious if you bother your arse looking for it. It's a totally obvious. Like it's like they're thumbing their.
It's there.
They're thumbing. They're looking down. They're making fun of us nearly with these super obvious like connections, but yet nobody is looking at it. Yeah, somebody could listen to you and they'd have like a bias or whatever against this information, and they'd be all like, your man is full of shite. Like he's drawn stuff out of nowhere, like pulling all these things together out of his arse. Like if you don't want to think about it that way, that's totally possible to think that way, but like. It's too ignorant people. Yeah, but dude, there's too many little things going like that's weird. I'd heard about the Kobe conspiracy before, and I'm like, is it that important? It's not really that important. But when you say he's suing the company that's like putting opium in diet pills, and the minute you scratch below the surface, you're into like a den of snakes that leads all the way to the top. Of course they're going to fucking kill him, like.
That's it. And see, these people, I've had people, and I posted a couple of weeks ago, and for some reason it was erased, okay, and I had reposted again a couple of days ago of Dr. Little Tony Midget Fauci, okay, director of the National Institutes of Health, Allergies and Infectious Diseases in Washington, D.C. He had his left hand inside of his jacket pocket, okay, with his right or left hand. That means he's a high-ranking Mason of the Scottish Rite Order. He is a 33rd degree Mason with his hand inside. So the right hand means he's in perfect fellowship with the order. The left hand means that he is about to be excommunicated from the White House. That's code. But you got people telling me, oh, he was scratching his chest. And this is how the deep state wants people to think. Is to think ignorantly. And as a side note, man of God, my brother, when you go back again to John Wilkes Booth, just quickly, his great grandfather, okay, was a man by the name of Ricardo Botha, capital Botha. Now, there was a prime minister of South Africa during the time of apartheid, President or Prime Minister P.W. Botha, who was also a Zionist, okay? Wait a minute, Zionists had perpetuated not only apartheid, but Zionists had helped Nelson Mandela through the Mandela effect. And the African National Congress, which is nothing more than a communist, socialist, Leninist, Marxist organization, they have destroyed South Africa. I got to say this, brother. Ever since black folk took over South Africa, they had destroyed it. Ever since black people had taken over South Africa through the African National Congress, they have crapped on the government of South Africa in the South African people.
See, now, I saw a very disturbing video today, Bishop Larry, about I would say hundreds, if not thousands, of black South Africans pulling trucks apart, like throwing rocks, pulling them over, setting fire to the truck, and pulling all the food out of the back. Because they're starving. Like South Africa is on the brink of like civil uprising. Venezuela the same. Some other South American countries and African nations are on the brink of it, but South Africa is like in the middle now of like potential violent civil unrest because the people have no food. Like they're fucking hijacking the trucks going by. I saw that video today on Tim Pool's channel, and it was like I was biting my knuckles. Like, it's like, oh fuck, this is the zombie apocalypse. It's not like the undead rising from their graves. It's like hungry motherfuckers who are like, give me a sandwich, or I'll bite your fucking neck.
Right. They're hacking white people to death. And so this is because of the African National Congress that's under the thumb of the Oppenheimer dynasty in South Africa, who have stolen and raped South Africans of the diamond mines, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, this is because of the Oppenheimers. So the Oppenheimers not only have perpetuated apartheid, now they're playing both sides of the fence. They perpetuated apartheid, and then on the other side, they got Nelson Mandela out of prison, okay? Yeah. So what they did, they put up a black face, okay, from the crab barrel, right, of the Boules, because Nelson Mandela, who was a 33rd degree Mason.
And a terrorist, let's not forget.
A terrorist of the Knights of Malta, right?
People forget that about Mandela. He's a cool guy, that guy. But I was also a terrorist. Don't forget, I was a terrorist.
Blowing up banks and blowing up white churches. Listen, murder is murder, okay? And so now Rand Posey, he's the president, right, or the prime minister of South Africa, right? Of the ANC are destroying the economy of South Africa. There is white apartheid happening in South Africa right now. Now, I'm not a proponent of apartheid, but ever since black folk took over South Africa, they had destroyed it. Okay, so as a quick side note here, going back to John Wilkes Booth before we get back to COVID-19, The great-grandfather of John Wilkes Booth was a man by the name of Ricardo Botha, who was a Spanish Jew or a Sephardic Jew, okay, whose family was excommunicated, his family out of Spain. Even his great-grandfather, okay, going back 2 generations, okay, was excommunicated by Queen Isabella through the Spanish Inquisition going back to the 1400s. Now, Ricardo Botha was an attorney, the great-grandfather of John Wilkes Booth. Then the grandfather of John Wilkes Booth is a man by the name of Richard Booth, who changed his name from Botha to Booth, okay, and moved to England. His son, his name was Junius Brutus Booth, okay? And Junius Brutus Booth in the Booth family had created the Salvation Army. Did you know that?
No. Really?
The army, the Salvation Army was created through the Booth family, through the relations of John Wilkes Booth and his family. The Salvation Army, matter of fact, the Salvation Army in the beginning was a secret society, just like the Red Cross. The Red Cross, okay? The Red Cross's founder, okay, and the Salvation Army's founder, they were all Masons. So the Red Cross, which does great work today, but in their beginning, in their origin, they were a secret society, just like the Klan, all right, the Knights of the Golden Circle. Now, the Salvation Army's founder was a man by the name of William Booth, who is related to John Wilkes Booth in that bloodline. When you type in William Booth and having his right hand inside of his jacket pocket, the founder of Salvation Army, which was a secret society, William Booth is a 33rd and 1/2 degree Mason in the bloodline of John Wilkes Booth of the Botha family. So this is mind-blowing information as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. So Ricardo Botha is the great-grandfather of John Wilkes Booth, okay? And his son, Richard Booth, is the grandfather of John Wilkes Booth, okay? And Junius Brutus Booth, okay, who along through the Booth family had created the Salvation Army, a secret society in its beginning, which had a son by the name of John Wilkes Booth, whose real name is John Wilkes Botha, a Sephardic Jewish Spanish Jew who was a member of the Virginia State B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League. And there's going to be people calling you, oh, Bishop is a racist. I am not. My job is to reveal the facts, and it's up to your people to come up with the proper conclusion as we're talking about the greatest conspiracy in human history. Go right ahead.
It's like when you say like, oh yeah, John Wilkes Booth was a Jew, or you could say like, John Wilkes Booth was a Jew. Do you know? It's the same word. It's just you say with a different flavor. Look, if it's facts, Larry. There's no like, you know what I mean. I take it from the way that you're almost prefacing any time that you mention Jewish people, that you're like, and now I'm not against any Jewish people, but also loads of shitty things have been done by some Jews.
Yes.
It's just the conversation that we're having. There could be a load of people we're talking about white Christians, or we could be talking about fucking, the English royal family or whatever. I guess you get a lot of shit online about saying this kind of stuff, do you?
You know what? Surprisingly, I don't get a lot of fallback from that, because my listeners know when I teach is authentic, is verifiable, and surprisingly, I have not gotten any. Probably a few here and there, but for the most part, they're saying, Bishop, you're telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't think I don't feel it's coming from anywhere that's like it's hyper negative or bigoted. It's just like Dems is facts. I'm a real lover of history, and I feel that we can really understand where we stand and what we see now if we're able to look at what has happened with a different perspective or through a different lens, because the way we were told how everything works leads us to inevitably to the moment that we're in now, where we are not in control of that moment. So if you want to take control of right now, you have to understand who you are, where you come from, and before your lifetime, what was what has happened. Like, there's 18-year-olds now that never lived through 9/11, and 9/11 and the effects it had on the planet, on the psyche of everybody, on even like practical things like taking your shoes off at the fucking airport. There's like 16-year-olds are like, oh, I guess we take our shoes off at the airport. That's as alien to them as like when you and I don't know what age you are, but like, I guess you're young enough to not have ever flown on a plane that had wicker chairs where you were allowed to smoke. Do you know?
Right.
So we look at pictures of that from early aviation in the 40s or 50s when they had like, you know, commercial aviation, and they had wicker chairs and there's people smoking and drinking martinis on a fucking plane that's going like this through the fucking sky, like a shoebox in the air. Exactly. 9/11 is as alien to those 16-year-old kids as wicker chairs and airplanes is to us. But you have to understand why and the cultural impact, the cultural effects, the cultural impact, the origins of it, like why that shit. You've melted my face a couple of times tonight with like the etymologies of certain words and stuff like that when you're like, oh my God, that's why that is. But you can see as soon as you say it, like a bunch of stuff falls into place for me because I'm like, oh, that's why that and that's why that. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening at home are going to get them little nuggets as well, because we've gone through an awful lot of these topics. Like the Federal Reserve has like a 6-hour episode. The creation of the Federal Reserve, before we even talk about like how it works, I did a whole episode about JP Morgan and the Jekyll Island meeting and, you know, like the boom bust economies. When you're talking about the new constitution of the 1870s, like that was when greenbacks were abolished and they tried to consolidate the currency because they wanted to have a centralized banking system. And with centralized banking came centralized taxation, and it was just, do you know, like people feel that. They feel that it's not right. And now more than ever with conspiracy theories, I could see someone looking at Kobe Bryant's situation and hearing some of the stuff that was on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and going like, that's only old conspiracy bullshit. And it's superficial, just like Kellyanne Conway is saying about the other 18 COVIDs, and people are like, what a fucking dumb bitch. Go get some sleep. It's 2019. That's why it's COVID-19, you stupid cunt. Like, people were ready to dismiss, but just scratch a little tiny bit below the surface and you'll find out that there's so much more going on behind everything that's happening in the last like 6 to 8 weeks. Like every single thing is super important.
Society for 6 to 8 hours because they are so interconnected into not just American society, but global society. Yeah. Because the Boule Society, they got 5,000 members and 126 chapters in the United States, throughout the Caribbean, and also within the UK. Now, I'm going to say this before I let you go. Man, there's so much here. I got to come back for a part 2.
Sure. I'm good to stay for another while. I know it's early enough for you, but you know, if you want to talk about Boule and get it all out on the table, and then we'll wrap it up like another like 20 minutes or whatever. And I'm happy enough to go. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then, because I have to do like a weekly fireside chat on Facebook. I'm sure that my students are going to get mad. Listen, anyway, I love them. But now getting back to Kobe Bryant before we wrap up, and we got to do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe next week or week after. Kobe Bryant goes to Germany from 2011 to 2016, and he is introduced to another knee doctor, orthopedist by the name of Dr. Peter Wheeling, capital Wehling, who is a member of the Tavistock Institute in Berlin, Germany, which Kobe didn't know he was a member of. Okay. Now we're getting to the Tavistock Institute, the Tavistock Group, the Tavistock Clinic, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, and the Tavistock Institute of Medical Psychology next time I come on. They are all proponents of depopulation in singularity, okay, including proponents of nanotechnology, another topic for another day.
Transhumanism and all that crack.
Yes, humanism, transmutation, all began with Rockefeller money going back to the 1920s and also during and after World War II. So then Kobe Bryant meets this German doctor in 2011. Kobe gets his knee worked on. He's suffering from arthritis in both knees. So Dr. Peter Wheeling, he is the founder and the co-director for the Center for Molecular Orthopedics and Regenerative or Regeneration Medicine, called CEMOR, capital CEMOR, in Germany, okay? And he has a therapy called PRP, which they call platelet-rich plasma therapy, capital PLATELET, platelet-rich plasma therapy, which a lot of doctors, even in the West, say that's blood doping. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, platelet-rich plasma is a therapy. Actually, it was originally called Orthkine, capital ORTHKINE. Then it was changed to Regenokine, capital REGENOKINE. Then it was changed to platelet-rich plasma, which they would take blood out of Kobe's knee or out of Kobe's body. And then Kobe reached out to a doctor in Los Angeles by the name of Dr. Christian Renna, capital RENNA. Now, what is so interesting about this Dr. Christian Renna, okay, who was connected to Kobe Bryant? Dr. Christian Renna was involved in the Balco doping conspiracy back in 2004, okay? He was heavily involved in that. Okay.
You're going to have to explain that a little bit because I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Balco. Well, Balco was a doping agency which they serviced former baseball players like Barry Bonds and many NFL
A-Rod and all those guys. Yeah.
A-Rod and all them, right, with steroids, right, with this cream where they would have, Barry Bonds to rub his knees with cream before he was to be tested for any opioid substances or any blood doping substances. Now, Kobe Bryant is connected to the doctor who was connected to a man, right, by the name of Victor Conte of Balco. Okay, back in the 2004 conspiracy. Now, that's why Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame right now. Now, it's interesting that this doctor, Christian Renna, who was connected to this Conte individual, okay, concerning the Balco conspiracy in 2004, okay, Victor Conte. So Victor Conte was sent to prison for 4 months, for not just financial embezzlement, but he was sent to prison for 4 months because of the doping scandal with all these athletes, okay? So when we talk about Kobe Bryant and the reason why that he was taken out, because Kobe Bryant was connected to this Balco scandal. Now, there's no proof. Now, Balco means the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative Corporation in San Francisco Bay, California. And so they were under indictment from the FBI going back to 2004 for blood doping. Okay. So Kobe Bryant was connected to one of the doctors who worked for Balco, this Dr. Christian Renna, who is the personal physician for Oliver Stone, the Hollywood director.
Right.
What I don't understand, Brother Gordon, is remember Lance Armstrong, right? The cyclist. He went through the same blood-rich plasma therapy as Kobe Bryant. But Lance Armstrong was excommunicated from the cycling industry. Why wasn't Kobe Bryant excommunicated? Because the platelet-rich plasma therapy, though it is not backed by the FDA here, the Federal Drug Administration, the Food and Drug Administration, but it's not outlawed in the NBA. Okay, and there's no outlaw or no rules against having this type of surgery. Okay, that would take the blood out of Kobe Bryant's body, freeze it for 3 weeks, and this Dr. Christian Renna, who is connected to this Balco conspiracy, blood doping back in 2004, was sending Kobe Bryant's blood, okay, 3 weeks in advance before Kobe would see this Dr. Peter Whaling. And so Dr. Peter would receive this blood, okay, and we don't know what was put in Kobe's blood from the time that the blood was taken out of his body from 2011 to 2016 to the time that he saw this Dr. Peter Whaling in Germany 3 weeks later, where they would use Kobe's blood that was taken out of him 3 weeks prior to put it back into his knee. That's blood doping, Brother G. Okay, but that's not outlawed in the National Basketball Association. But yet,
because it's not a foreign substance, it's just like it's a treatment.
It's a treatment. So the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has outlawed it, but the NBA has not. So then Lance Armstrong, it was excommunicated forever, was forever banned from cycling because he went through the same blood doping therapy.
So you think Kobe got away from it because he had like a Boule arm around his shoulder and went, "Come on, we get you off this."
See, and you hit this right on the button, because Kobe being connected not only to the Boule Secret Society, okay, but also to the Thelema Secret Society and the Theosophical Secret Society and the Tavistock Groups, Institutes, claims. So then Kobe is interconnected, okay? So he's protected by the system because Kobe is protecting the system. So then what this blood therapy would do, this platelet-rich plasma therapy, it will give oxygen back into the same blood that was withdrawn from Kobe's body 3 weeks prior and would be interjected back into Kobe's body via his knee. That's blood doping, Brother G. And so then Kobe Bryant was not excommunicated or banned from the National Basketball Association. Kobe Bryant knew too much. So this Dr. Peter Whaling is a part of the Tavistock Institute in Berlin, Germany. He's also a member of the Tavistock Group, the Tavistock Clinic, and the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. Okay, that they are practitioners of transhumanism and transmutation with funding through the Rockefeller Foundation. Kobe is connected to all of these entities.
Is that why he was killed? Because he knew that they were doing that to athletes all over? Or is that just like a coincidental connection to powerful people?
Kobe Bryant was blackmailing the deep state.
Right. It seems now that you kind of unravel how many connections he had, like between the lawsuit, the questionably legal treatments, the connection to Boule Society, probably getting rammed up the arse by some important, white lad who's like a, titan of industry or something like that. And then whatever other knowledge he had on other people that were in similar situations to him that are still alive. He had to go. The powers that be decided, that this lad has to go,
See, Kobe Bryant was approached by the government of Saudi Arabia, and we're done here. Saudi Arabia approached Kobe Bryant, and what I'm about to tell you is mind-blowing information, okay? Mm-hmm. The Saudi Arabian government approached Kobe Bryant about starting a NBA league in Saudi Arabia, including in China. The Chinese government had approached him as well. Well, they did not approach Adam Silver of the National Basketball Association. Okay, the Chinese did not. And the Saudi Arabian government did not approach Adam Silver, okay, who was a Zionist. Okay, a part of the B'nai B'rith of the Anti-Defamation League, and every owner in the NBA, 98% of them are Jewish. All of the owners in pro sports, and again, they're Jewish. This is not being anti-Semitic. This is a fact. Okay, so then Kobe Bryant was approached by the Saudi Arabian government. Okay, a few months before his death. They wanted him to create a National Basketball Association, okay, in Saudi Arabia. So did the Chinese government, okay? So, and again, Kobe Bryant was blackmailing the NBA.
Is this before or after all the royal family and the massive amount of politicians all got arrested and swept up and taken away in Saudi Arabia? Is this before that or after that? Because if it was before that...
This was after.
Right.
This was after. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. All the politicians in
like there's a big swamp drain there in Saudi Arabia a while ago.
Yes, they were, and this was after the fact that they were arrested. And I believe they were arrested because of President Trump's son-in-law.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I believe he's Mossad. That's another topic for another day. So the Saudi Arabia's General Sports Authority League, the General Sports Authority, had enlisted the services of many heads of many of the major American sports leagues, right? The Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, the National Football League, but they did not reach out to the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, but they reached out to Kobe. That's interesting. Okay. And so then the Saudi Arabian government reached out to Kobe, a woman by the name of Princess Rima, capital RWEMA, okay, who is the daughter of the former ambassador to the U.S., representing the Saudi Arabian government, okay, Prince Bandar. Her father, it was the former ambassador, Saudi Arabian ambassador to the U.S., Prince Bandar, who is close friends to the Bush family. And mind you, the Bush family, that's not their real name. Their real name is Sheriff, a German dynastic family through German blood. That's another topic for another day about the Bush's family.
I have a Bush Dynasty episode coming up next season.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So Princess Rima is the daughter of Prince Bandar, who's heavily involved in the 9/11 conspiracy. Do you understand how deep this goes with Kobe? Wait a minute,
I'm starting to, Larry. This shit runs deep. I thought it was just a fucking meme on the internet, but now it seems like there's a reason people are talking about it.
Right, the pills being laced with opioid substances. So Prince Rima is the daughter of Prince Bandar, who is a part of the 9/11 conspiracy. Okay, so this is how this touches Kobe. What did Kobe know? So Princess Rima is the daughter of the former Saudi Arabian ambassador to the United States, Prince Bandar. Okay, so Princess Rina Bandar Al Saud, the daughter of former ambassador to the U.S. and the first female head of the Saudi Federation for Community Sports, okay, reached out to Kobe Bryant in 2019. Kobe Bryant was going to create a major basketball league, both in China and in Saudi Arabia. He was becoming powerful, but he was beginning to blackmail people because the NBA didn't want him to do that. He says, if you don't allow me to create my own league, both in China and Saudi Arabia, then I'm going to expose you, the National Basketball Association, because you're using the Novartis AG group out of Basel, Switzerland, the group that I'm suing, and I'm going to expose you, NBA, because the Novartis AG group does the drug testing for the National Basketball Association. Oh, Brother G, it gets deeper. The Novartis AG group does the main drug testing, okay? There's other small drug testing corporations under Novartis, but Novartis runs the drug testing system for the National Basketball Association. And no NBA players are being drug tested during COVID-19. I wonder why. So you see what I mean?
That's what I wonder too. Why was the NBA the first? Like
the first
to shut down and say, like, we need to shut the country down. It was almost like the match to the tinderbox of like the fear of Corona. Like everything was like, Donald was like, don't worry about it. Keep going to work. It's okay. It's only China. We can get our plastic somewhere else, steel. It's fine. And then the NBA went, fuck it. We're out. And then everybody shit the bed then. Do you know? It seems like the NBA was the first to fall, the first big domino, the first franchise to fall. Like,
you see, so and again, I cannot help but to think, but this Princess Rima, her father was heavily involved in the 9/11 conspiracy. Prince Bandar bin Sultan Al Saud, okay, who was heavily connected to Osama bin Laden, into the bin Laden construction company, okay. This, again, Bandar is connected to 9/11, to the Osama bin Laden family, okay, during 9/11, because 9/11, listen, it was an inside job. That's another topic for another day. So the daughter of one of the major players in the 9/11 conspiracy was the woman that reached out to Kobe Bryant about starting an NBA professional basketball league. Kobe Bryant received blowback and was blackmailing some powerful people from Big Pharma, from Teva, that's controlled by the Mosiah in Israel, by Novartis, okay? Some of these big pharmaceutical corporations worldwide, including Apotex in Canada, whose owners were strangled. Remember?
Yes.
Barry Sherman.
Yeah.
Why they strangled? They were strangled because they stole the patent, okay, a patent infringement of a drug that would treat, not just all Alzheimer's patients, but a drug that would treat people with Parkinson's diseases. So,
and they were going to undersell all the pharma companies by giving it out for nothing because they were.
Yes.
Fuck.
They were messing with Mossad money because the Mossad controls the Teva Pharmaceutical Corporation in Tel Aviv. So the Sherman, specifically Barry Sherman, okay, stole the patent of the drug A-Select that would treat people with Parkinson's diseases, including Alzheimer's. That was the patent that the Teva pharmaceutical industry owned. That's controlled by the Mossad. Okay, then they end up dead, strangled in their home. Kobe Bryant is connected to these industries and to these entities. Kobe knows too much, and he was messing with the wrong people by blackmailing them. Don't do that.
He seemed like the phone book in his phone was just a bunch of people who could have him killed at any point. Like, he seemed to be fucking with hard motherfuckers. Like, that's an awful lot of people to be in bed with.
They killed his daughter, okay? Collateral damage. They were sending his wife a message, okay? Keep her mouth shut.
Well, they've done the same. They've done the same with that. The kid,
Yes.
It is my opinion. Here we go. Defamation. It is my opinion that John Travolta's son was taken from him because he was going to come out and say some shit. There's a bunch of people's kids and families and stuff.
Bill Cosby,
Ennis.
NBC 10 years ago. Yeah. He said, okay, if you don't, he blackmailed NBC. Okay, that's all Rothschild-owned media. Okay, they took out his son and they blamed some Russian for it. No. You see, you don't do that. See, they would take you out to make it look like it was suicide, Whitney Houston, okay, to make it look like it was cancer, okay? Listen, this is Kobe Bryant was in way over his head. This is just part one of the greatest global cover-up in human history. We got to come back for parts 2 and 3. A lot to unpack.
You can see how easily those Conspiracy Guys episodes get up to 7 and 8 hours.
Oh my goodness!
There's so many questions. I'd say we could sit over a candlelit table with iced drinks, and we could be there for a while, man. It's fantastic talking to you, Larry. You have so much knowledge, so much red string tied to shit with push pins.
It's it. And even the Social Security number system here in the United States, all black people, most black people in this country, our numbers, as far as our 10-digit Social Security number, most of the numbers that black Americans have is odd numbers, like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Mostly non-black people have even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Not all, but most. Why? That was put in not just because of the second Constitution, okay, in 1871. That was put in also through the LBJ administration during the mid-1960s, okay, through the Great Society and the New Deal, okay, to differentiate between black Americans and non-black Americans. Americans have,
without having to see their faces, you could just see their number on a CV or on a receipt or in a database and go like, okay.
It's a database, yes. And some black people have even numbers. There's some couple even numbers in our 10-digit Social Security number, but most of the numbers out of 10 are odd numbers. Non-black people are even numbers, and they have a few odd numbers. So
I wonder how affiliated to like hip hop culture the white people with the white people with odd number Social Security. That's a real like a weird study, do you know? Like if you're a white person but you have an odd Social Security number, are you into like hip hop. Do you have it somewhere in you? Is there somewhere in your bloodline you have something, and that's why you got an odd number?
All the rappers, and I'm done. All the rappers, men have to sleep with men, women have to sleep with women. If you want to get into the rap I call it music. M-U-S-I-C-K, just like it does in the Bible in the book of Daniel the prophet. When I don't care if it's Jay-Z, I don't care if it's 50 Cent. To get into that financial realm, they have to be initiated through the Boule Secret Society, which is partly of a homosexual buck-breaking secret society.
I tell you what, Bishop Larry, as much as Kobe Bryant knew, and as much as we've learned tonight that he knew, because you went deep, hard with details, names, dates, locations, fucking, flight numbers. As much as Kobe knew, I tell you, man, the likes of Kanye and Jay-Z and these lads, like what they know, I'd say would tear the world apart if it became public. Do you know? Oh, yeah, they do. And you know what? Kobe died on the same day that the Grammys took place. Okay? Sure, it was a human sacrifice. It's 201 days after the 201st day of 2019, after Event 201. It was the launch of the American pandemic lockdown, like days before the NBA shut down. Like, it's this is the weirdest. This is the weirdest year on record. Like, some shit's going down. I remember Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, had got a text during a game. Well, before the game was getting ready to start, he's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, where he was told, shut it down. See, the NBA, I'm telling you, ever since Kobe's assassination, there's been a level of darkness, my brother, that I've never seen before. And I'm telling you, the truth is coming out about who had assassinated Kobe Bryant. And the woman that reached out to him, Princess Rima, her father is heavily involved in the 9/11 conspiracy. Prince Bandar, who is connected to the Bin Laden group, who was connected to the Malaysia flight that disappeared. Kobe was connected to too many people. Yeah. Okay, that he blackmailed. It seems like man. I've one little question, Bishop Larry, before we go. Richard Walton asks, Gordon, can you ask him if he's ever done acid? Have you ever done acid, Bishop Larry? Have I ever done what? Acid. LSD. No, I've never done that. Never. No, never done drugs, never drank, never smoked in my life. Never. Never. Right. I think maybe Richard is insinuating that you have a very wide open mind, and maybe that was helped along by some hallucinogenics. The anointing of the Spirit of God, the hand of the Lord is upon me. The hand of Jesus Christ is upon me. It's not acid. It is the mind of God. It is the anointing from the Holy Spirit that has anointed me to I can talk for hours, man. I used to do, and I'll let you go. I used to do these marathons like once a year on my radio show. Actually, for 24 hours, and I would rest for every 3 hours, right? Yeah. And I allow some of my co-hosts to take over, and I come back, and these are just financial marathons I used to do. Just teach, just roll conspiracies, continents, dates, and time. And people say, Bishop, how can you do this? And so these are connected red dots. Sure. My job as a red pillar, and I'll let you go. My job as a red pillar is to red pill the red pillars. That's my job. Well, it is to red pill every red pillar. All of our minds are well and truly gaping after that. I'm sure we'll be back again in a matter of weeks. I mean, we're all on lockdown and there's nowhere else to go. But I really appreciate you coming on the show. I hope everybody enjoyed the information and the chats that we had. If you want to hear more from Bishop Larry, there is a Tinfoil Hat episode about Black Wall Street, which I found very, very interesting. And there was one thing you said in that I thought was a great parallel. The fact that we talked about the letter fraternities and whatever, and there was a girl from a fraternity that was put in there, and one of the workers fell and he touched her foot, and it became this whole thing. Yeah. It kind of very much mirrors the Kobe rape case, where it was like, okay, we need somebody from this to go in.
A young girl named Sarah Page. Yeah, she was an elevator operator, underage now, but this is all set up. She was related to the mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, into my Black Wall Street. And the mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the governor of Oklahoma were all 33rd degree Masons. This was a conspiracy, not just to destroy Black people, but they wanted the land that Greenwood, Oklahoma, that the Black citizens lived on because there was oil and mineral rights. That's why. So they came up with the pretext of this white girl being touched. Oh, I was raped, and she was lying. Okay. And now Black Wall Street is destroyed. This was a psyop.
Super interesting episode over there with Sam Tripley on Tinfoil Hat that you were on. And there's you go onto YouTube, there's 40 videos. You go onto the podcast, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you've hours and hours and hours of stuff. So there's one or two more questions. I have one from Don't Drink the Water from Cheney, the Don't Drink the Water podcast. Brother Larry, what about all the basketball players in dresses during the 90s? Not just Rodman. Think of all the commercials.
Yes. See, that perfect. And what was the name of the person that said that? I want to thank them.
Don't Drink the Water podcast. Cheney is her name.
Don't Drink the Water. And that sounds like a great broadcast. I got to get on. So then during the 90s, through predictive programming, you're talking about this predictive programming going back to the late 80s going to the 90s. Dennis Rodman is a tool of the Central Intelligence Agency. They have allowed him to go into you don't go into North Korea unless you have the backing of the Central Intelligence Agency. But to answer that question, this was the predictive programming where the deep state was putting seeds in our minds to accept this transgender, this sexual disorientation psychology that was to come another decade, 15 years later. So Dennis Rodman was the root, the etymology that started this cross-dressing, pedophilia, psyop, sexual disorientation, okay, where boys become girls and girls become boys. The basketball player, the former NBA star Dwayne Wade, and I brought this up on Sam's show, I believe the second time. When you type in Dwayne Wade, misunderstood LGBTQ communities, Dwayne Wade misunderstood LGBTQ communities, and it shows a picture of Dwayne Wade's hair in braids in multiple pyramids, which represent the same multiple small pyramids that the FBI put out a few years ago, declassifying one of those symbols were the symbols that the underground pedophilia network uses in the United States. Why would Dwayne Wade have his hair in braids of the same symbols that were declassified by the FBI, representing the pedophilia underground network? And do you know the Chicago Bulls team that Michael Jordan and including Dennis Rodman used to play on? When you look at that Chicago Bulls logo, and I brought this up on Crowdsource the Truth maybe a couple of weeks ago, and turn that Chicago Bulls logo or insignia upside down, it represents a symbol of a pedophilia logo. I kid you not. When you turn it upside down, in reverse, in inversion, the logo of the Chicago Bulls. And now people say, it represents a robot reading a book. No, it represents a robot, okay, in sodomization. These are demonic codes as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. So to answer that from a powerful question from this brother or sister, Dennis Rodman started this psyop in the 1990s, okay? Cross-dressing, okay? Generation X. It's all a part of what I call the demasculization, not just of the black man. The Hollywood deep state wants to demasculate manhood. Remember these Gillette commercials? Toxic masculinity? That's all a part of the Luciferian deep state psyop, okay? To demasculate manhood in order to masculate womanhood. It's all by design here, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history. Excellent question.
Cheney also says, I listen to Larry all the time, and he still red pills me. Great episode. So if I told Don't Drink the Water and Cheney to reach out to you, Bishop Larry, would you go on and have a chat with her on her podcast?
Absolutely. She can reach out to me, and she can follow me on Twitter. Is at Bishop L. Gaiters. That's Gaiters. Or on Facebook, facebook.com/Bishop L. Gaiters, Gaiters. She can also email me at Global Spiritual Revolution Radio at yahoo.com. Again, Global Spiritual Revolution Radio at yahoo.com. I would be honored to go on her show. That's no problem. Absolutely.
Well, Bishop Larry, it's been fantastic having you. I red pills all over the house here.
Is your mind blown, brother? This is mind blowing information, and it's
stingy. It is stingy. It's not blown, but it's stingy. I'm going to have to go off now, edit this together, and frantically write down all the names and all of the connections.
And send me the MP3 version to email that to me, and we can post it on our YouTube site. And quickly, with your permission, if all of you guys want to follow me, subscribe to our YouTube channel, just go on YouTube and type in Global Spiritual Revolution Radio. Again, Global Spiritual Revolution Radio. And last but never least, with your permission, Brother Gordon, please financially support us. I know times are tough right now. Everything's on lockdown on an international level. Please go to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group. Again, paypal.me, that's ME, /G, S, R, Media Group. No dashes or spaces in between. One more time, paypal.me /GSRR Media Group. When you give unto the Lord, he will give you more to give. Whether it's $20, $40, $50, $100, $200. It takes finances to run a national and international ministry and syndicated radio show like Global Spiritual Revolution Radio. That's paypal.me /GSRR Media Group. And that is part one of the greatest global cover-up in human history. Thank you so much, Brother G. It's been an honor to be on your show.
Thanks, Bishop Larry. We'll definitely do something like this again. For all of those links, I'm going to put them into the descriptions below so people will be able to find them pretty handy. And I've live streamed this to the wonderful Patreon folks who are taking care of those conspiracy guys and TCG Towers over here as well. It's great to have people live, interacting, asking questions. We're going to do loads of these as the summer goes on. And it's really great to have you as some of the first, because there'll be a high bar set as we go along.
And brother, can I say one more thing, Brother
Yes, sir.
Gordon?
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Remember LSD, created through the MK Ultra Mind Control Project 1953, okay? And also L. Ron Hubbard was a part of that program, and the Church of Scientology is a CIA-created psyop. That's all it is. So then, when you're talking about LSD, what is the first letter of Lucifer? L. What is the first letter of Satan? S. What is the first letter of devil? D. There's your LSD. Nothing is by accident, as we're talking about the greatest global cover-up in human history, okay? And Kobe Bryant said that he loved to channel the spirit of Ayn Rand, right? Ayn Rand, capital Ayn Rand, capital AYNRAND, that politically she was against communism, but socially she was a communist, a socialist, a Marxist, a Leninist. Okay, she was a pro-abortionist. Okay, she was an atheist, but yet Kobe Bryant was channeling the spirit of Ayn Rand, who was also the lover of the late L. Ron Hubbard of the Church of Scientology. This is the greatest global cover-up in human history, part one. Thank you so much, Brother Gordon. We got to do this again.
Thanks, Bishop Larry. Thanks to everybody for listening. This has been Those Conspiracy Guys, and we'll see you again soon sometime. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.